Chapter 45:38. Rin, Jianming, gritted his teeth. His eyes were dark and hazy. He knows that, as an elder of the Rin family, Elder Tsang will definitely not stand idly by. She used me to lure Elder Tsang out, and then used me to make Elder Tsang lie here, unable to wake up. So, right from the start, Rin Jianming's target was Elder Tsang. Or rather, even if he didn't scheme against Elder Tsang, he could also take the opportunity to create trouble for Ren Jianming. Or rather, he had inadvertently destroyed Ren Jianming. It was enough to make him lose the right to be the successor of the Rin family, no matter what the reason was, as long as one of the two was achieved. To Ren Jianming it was all good and no harm. Because Ren Jianming schemed against him, so you think, he has a way to deal with Ren Jianming? Yi Qing Luo asked. Ren Jianming took a deep look at the ice bed. Yes, Elder Tsang will definitely be able to deal with Ren Jianming. He is an elder of the Rin family. At this point, his voice suddenly became softer. Most importantly, I don't want anything to happen to Elder Tsang. I want him to recover. Elder Tsang was tricked because of him, and he was lying in this place. How could he not feel guilty? However, because of Ren Jianming. However, he didn't dare to openly look for capable people to save Elder Tsang. He could only maintain his image as a hedonistic young master on the surface, while secretly searching for a way to save Elder Tsang, until he met Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo muttered to herself for a moment and replied calmly, I will save him, as long as you're willing. I can agree to any conditions. Ren Jianming clenched his fists tightly as he looked at Yi Qing Luo anxiously. Yi Qing Luo shook her head. There's no need for any conditions or requests. I'm the one who wants to save him. Perhaps it was because Yi Qing Luo's tone was simply too serious. Ren Jianming clenched his fists and asked tentatively, You know Elder Tsang too? What do you mean by what you just said? Does Elder Tsang have a very good relationship with you guys? To me, he is the most important elder. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes overflowed with radiance, so I will save him. Ren Jianming wanted to ask something, but he closed his mouth in the end. No matter what the relationship between Yi Qing Luo and Old Tsang was, since Yi Qing Luo had agreed, she would never go back on her word. She would definitely make Elder Tsang open his eyes again, but a little difficult. Yi Qing Luo slowly squatted down beside the ice bed. She held the hand gently. It was bone-chilling. It was extremely hard. Yi Qing Luo's hands were trembling. Miss Gu, you can't touch Elder Tsang. Ren Jianming saw Yi Qing Luo's action and was so shocked that his eyes deepened. This is the 1,000-year frost. Old Tsang is protected by the cold air of the 1,000-year frost. This cold air will hurt you. It doesn't matter. The emotions in Yi Qing Luo's eyes fluctuated strangely. Her heart was beating wildly. She held Old Man Tsang's hand, although it was cold, but it was truly Old Man Tsang's body. Ren Jianming saw that Dmo Xian had no intention to stop him, so he didn't say anything more. If the cold air really hurt Yi Qing Luo, Dmo Xian would probably be the first one to stop Yi Qing Luo from touching the ice. He placed all of his thoughts on Elder Tsang. Miss Gu, you said it's a little difficult. What do you mean? His situation is not as simple as you think. Yi Qing Luo let go of his hand. The reason why he fainted is not only because of Ren Jianming's schemes. Chapter 45:39. I can only do my best to help him. This is my promise to him. I promised him she would help him find a body that belonged to him and turn him into a true human. The tenderness in Yi Qing Luo's eyes gradually dispersed. Instead, there was determination in her eyes. Regarding Old Man Tsang's situation, Yi Qing Luo didn't really understand. Through Dmo Xian's explanation, she roughly understood. As long as he fused Old Man Tsang's spiritual body with his body, The memories between the two would also merge. Yi Qing Luo remembered that Old Man Song had mentioned it before. He wanted to turn Old Man Song back into a true human. He needed to collect all 5 pieces of the Azure Water Divine artifact. Currently, she only had the Azure Water Ring, the Azure Water Silk Chain, and the Azure Water Pendant. He was still missing the Azure Crystal Pendant and the Azure Water Light Chain. As of now, she was still unable to sense the existence of the other 2 divine artifacts in her hands. Yi Qing Luo looked at the person on the ice bed and said word by word, "I will definitely remember the Tsang Shui 5-piece set and will definitely find a way to let you stand in front of me in a human form." The Azure Dew Bracelet suddenly scorched her hand. It seemed to be Old Man Tsang's reply. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a smile as her fingertips covered the Azure Dew Bracelet. Just as he was about to ask Old Man Tsang's spiritual sense if he still had any memories of his body, the man behind her suddenly grabbed her slender waist. His expression became slightly serious. "Something has happened in the Gu residence." Yi Qing Luo immediately raised her head. "What happened?" "Before I left, I set up an enchantment outside the Bone residence." DMO Xian held her still icy cold hand. "There's a fluctuation in the enchantment. Someone has left the enchantment." "Leave." Yi Qing Luo's heart thumped. At the critical moment of the Heaven Realm, if he left the Gu residence so easily, he would be captured and skinned at any moment. There were clues to the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade and the Divine Emperor's Tomb. These 2 points attracted the attention of the various forces. On top of that, Ren Jianying had led the Rin family to take advantage of the situation during the leaderboard. Rin Jianying planned to control the entire Heaven Realm in a short period of time. Furthermore, Ren Jiaming was in the Gu residence. If the people in the Gu residence left the Gu residence, they would definitely be killed. The walls had been gnawed until nothing was left. "Let's go. Let's return to the Gu residence first." Thinking of these consequences, Yi Qing Luo's expression turned extremely ugly. "Ren Jianming, I'll have to trouble you to take care of Old Man Song." "Me too." Rin Jianming was just about to speak, but he was interrupted by Yi Qing Luo. "This place is a very good hiding place. You stay here and guard Old Man Song." Without waiting for Rin Jianming to speak, she took the lead and headed back in the direction they came from. When Yi Qing Luo arrived at the Gu residence, the Gu residence was already in a mess. Gu Yin stood at the entrance of the Gu residence and opened her arms. "All of you, calm down. Sir Di Zun has specially ordered this servant not to let you leave the Gu residence. There must be a reason for Sir Di Zun." Yen Xiao Yi and Gu Zishi were blocked at the door. Their expressions were ugly and dark. One of their hands was on Gu Yan's arm, wanting to push her away. Beside him stood Tong Ziqing and Long Yunzhan, whose expressions were also not very good. He looked around. However, Gui Wu and the others were nowhere to be seen. Chapter 4540. Yen Xiao Yi and Gu Zishi, who were struggling to rush out of the Gu residence's main door, stopped. Since the other party used such a method, then they must have set up an inescapable net, waiting for you to walk right into it. Gu Yin saw that she had persuaded the both of them and immediately added on. Yen Xiao Yi and Gu Zishi looked at each other. The expressions on their faces were complicated, as though they were forcefully suppressing the surging emotions in their chest, trying their best to calm their own emotions. Yen Xiao Yi's fingers clenched tightly as she punched the air. "Then what should we do? Don't tell me we are just going to stand here and wait." Gu Yin lowered her head in difficulty. "I think we should wait for the Overlord and eldest young miss to return to the residence. You also said it's an inescapable net. How could Cousin Xiao and Ah Xing be those people's match?" Gu Zishi was panting heavily as she spoke. She paced back and forth anxiously on the spot. Her face was filled with unconcealable anxiety. "It won't happen." Yan Xiao Yi took a deep breath as her voice trembled slightly. She could tell that she was restraining her own emotions. Since they used such a method to intentionally lure Qiao Jin and Huang Fusheng away, then they must have made up their minds to use them as bait to lure Qing Luo out. Yan Xiao Yi wasn't sure if she was convincing herself or convincing Gu Zixi. Before Qing Luo appears within a short period of time, their lives will absolutely not be in danger. Gu Zixi's eyelashes fluttered as she opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but swallowed it down as she changed to something else. What you said is right. They will be fine, they won't. But after the both of them finished saying this sentence, both of them fell into silence. No matter how they tried to convince themselves, their hearts were still unable to cross that hurdle. They were unable to control themselves, not to worry about them. Their lives wouldn't be in danger. But the others? They were such proud people. How could they endure becoming the other party's captives? Just at this moment. What happened? Who has left the Gu residence? A clear voice sounded, as though it was faintly discernible in the air. When that voice rang, the group of people who were squeezing at the entrance with a heavy atmosphere suddenly raised their heads and looked over. A huge-tailed fox descended from the sky. Immediately after, a tall and upright DMO Xian leapt down from the tailed fox's back. He leaned forward and hugged the other person on the fox's back. The girl's flowing red dress was like a flowing fire pouring down in torrents. When he saw that person, everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. Qing Luo, Yan Xiao, it seemed as though she had grabbed onto a life-saving straw as she dashed forward towards Yi Qing Luo. Jinzi? He has left the Gu residence. Her words were concise and comprehensive as she swiftly told Yi Qing Luo about the matter. It was probably when the Rin family was unreasonable and tyrannical, many families and forces chose to submit to him. Among them was the Huangfu family. Huangfu family's target had always been Yi Qing Luo. As a result, the Huangfu clan came to the Gu residence under the orders of the Huangfu clan. He didn't know what method the Huangfu clan had used. He had actually tricked those two cousins out of the Gu residence. When Qiao Jin and Huang Fusheng were in the Bone residence, the people from the outside world couldn't do anything to them, but they left the Gu residence. How would the Huangfu clan's people possibly let them off? The more she recalled, Yan Xiao Yi's anxiety grew even more. Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 45-41. She held Yi Qing Luo's hand as her palms were filled with cold sweat. Qing Luo, Huangfu family, must be setting a trap for us. Jin Zi will be fine. He will be fine, right? I know. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as her long and narrow pupils reflected a piercingly cold glint. Huangfu family's motive is probably not just to lure me into their trap. That Ren Jianying. It's time to meet her. It had always been her who schemed against others. How could others scheme against her, as well as the brothers whom she cared about? Since the other party was trying all ways and means to lure her out, then she would grant them their wish. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a smile, swinging into a cold smile. Yan Xiao Yi wanted to persuade her, but when her gaze landed on DMO Xian, she swallowed her words back. Right? The Overlord was here. The Overlord would protect Yi Qing Luo well. Huangfu family. In the huge courtyard, there was a rain of blood and a foul wind. Sand and pebbles flew as trees were uprooted, turning into a pile of ruins. And in that flying pebbles hurricane, faintly, a few figures could be seen. Qiao Jin and Huang Fu Sheng stood in the middle of the ruins. Their long robes fluttered along with the hurricane. Endless profound waves were released from both of them. It surged like the rolling waves of the ocean. A murderous aura filled the entire space, and the surroundings of the courtyard were surrounded by hundreds of guards. There were also dozens of secret guards hidden in the dark, surrounding them tightly. In front of the two of them, an insolent, mocking voice came. "You too, your words are pretty. You said you weren't interested in the Huangfu family, but the minute you heard that Huangfu family was re-electing for the position of the family head, you immediately rushed back. Your ambition has been exposed." The smoke dispersed, revealing Huangfu Dongyu's face. On both sides of him stood the third brother, Huangfu Qifei, and the dying Huangfu Fengyan. It was the brother and sister trio again. Qiao Jin's ordinary face had an extremely solemn expression. After hearing Huangfu Dongyu's words, a sliver of disdain surfaced in his eyes. He couldn't even be bothered with Huangfu Dongyu. "We're not here to run for the position of patriarch." Huangfu Sheng clenched his fists, unable to maintain his composure. "I want to find grandfather. What right does a bastard have to call me grandfather?" Huangfu Fengyan revealed a sinister expression, a shameless mother giving birth to a shameless son. Is he even fit to appear in the Huangfu clan, living under the same roof and breathing the same sky with you? I even feel disgusted by the air. The three Huangfu siblings couldn't understand this at all. Why did Grandpa have to be so biased towards a young child? Any one of them would be hundreds of times stronger than that bastard. But Grandfather would never be able to see them. However, not anymore. The Huangfu clan now belonged to them. They could arrange it however they wanted. He could change the rules however he wanted. Swish! A sharp and cold gaze ruthlessly stared at Huangfu Fengyan. Huangfu Sheng's eyes were filled with murderous intent. His tightly clenched fingers made cracking sounds. Qiao Jin's hand pressed on Huangfu Sheng's arm. "Don't be angry. She deliberately provoked your anger so that you would take the initiative to make a move." His expression was calm, and his ordinary face exuded a sense of nobility and majesty. When he looked at Huangfu Fengyan, he easily suppressed all of Huangfu Fengyan's voice. Chapter 45-42. Qiao Jin clearly did not do anything, but his aura had an aura that could suppress everything. Huangfu Sheng's muscles were all tensed up, and there was an irrepressible anger in his emotions. But after looking down at the hand on his arm, he still suppressed his anger. Huangfu Fengyan knew what his bottom line was. She was also very clear about what words could provoke his most direct anger. Huangfu Fengyan mentioned his mother at this time. It was obviously intentional. If he really made a move, she would fall into the opponent's trap. Huangfu Fengyan was frightened by Huangfu Sheng's gaze. Her face instantly turned pale, but she forced herself to show a provocative expression. But the enraged Huangfu Sheng only looked at her with an extremely vicious gaze and did not have the intention to make a move. Huangfu Fengyan did not achieve her goal and was even stared at by Huangfu Sheng's vicious gaze. There was an inexplicable feeling of strangeness. She looked at the side at the gentle and elegant Huangfu Qifei, and her eyes were slightly in a mess. She took a deep breath, then looked at Huangfu Sheng and continued, "Don't make it sound so nice. At the end of the day, you just want to compete for the position of the head of the Huangfu family. But let me tell you, you are a bastard, a wild beast that has long been removed from the family tree. Both of you have no right to compete. Who cares about the competition for the position of the head of the family? I will only say it once, hand over the old man. What you want to do in the future has nothing to do with us." Qiao Jin impatiently interrupted her. Although grandfather is no longer the head of the Huangfu family, his authority is still there. Now that the selection for the position of head of the family is imminent, grandfather naturally has to uphold justice in the Huangfu family. Huangfu Fengyan sneered and said, "You say that you want to see grandfather, but you just want to make use of grandfather's fondness for you to gain his support." Qiao Jin did not even bother to look at her, but stared directly at Huangfu Dongyu and said, "Tell me directly, you specially made use of the old man to lure us here. What is your motive?" Huangfu Dongyu placed his hands behind his back and sneered, naturally, "I want you to never be able to return to the Huangfu clan." There was an obvious, murderous intent in his eyes. "Both of you are incompatible with the Huangfu family. Both of you don't have the right to stand in the Huangfu family. The only way to prevent you from ever returning to the Huangfu clan is—" Huangfu Dongyu grinned, revealing a treacherous sneer as he said word by word, "Both of you die!" As soon as he finished speaking, a slim and graceful figure walked out from behind the two of them. The man was dressed in black, and his black hair was tied into a simple bun, revealing his exquisite face. That person had an outstanding temperament, and his every movement was filled with nobility. Between her eyebrows there was the beauty of a woman, as well as the sharpness of a person in a superior position. When Huangfu Sheng saw who it was, he cautiously moved closer to Qiao Jin. "Rin Jianying." Yes, the person who came was the current head of the Rin family, Rin Jianying. Rin Jianying's posture was noble and arrogant. She raised her chin slightly, revealing her fair neck. Her red lips curled slightly. "I have no choice. First Mistress Gu refused to leave the Gu residence. If I want to see her, I can only use this method." Although Rin Jianying was smiling, but under that smile there was a huge turbulence. End of this chapter. Chapter 45-43. She raised her finger. She didn't waste any words. She directly made her move. Qiao Jin vaguely saw the extremely faint black aura that Rin Jianying swept away when she made her move. It was a little strange. When he looked again and again, he didn't see anything. The next moment, Rin Jianying's attack had already rushed in front of him. As expected of the person who crippled Ren Jianming and became the new head of the Ren family with her own strength. When she made her move, there was no hesitation at all. Qiao Jin and Huangfu Sheng didn't even have time to react. They quickly raised their hands to counterattack. The two sides were fighting. He didn't know if it was Qiao Jin's illusion. Every time Rin Jianying made her move, Qiao Jin could vaguely see a wisp of extremely faint black yin qi lingering around Ren Jianying. Bang! There was a loud explosion. A figure was sent flying by the mysterious wave and fell heavily to the ground. Then there was the sound of weapons colliding. Huangfu Sheng. Qiao Jin wanted to catch Huangfu Sheng, who was flying out, but he didn't have time to move. Rin Jianying had already attacked from the other side. As soon as she got close, Qiao Jin could almost clearly see the black aura seeping out of Rin Jianying's eyes. That kind of black aura made one's heart palpitate with fear. His heart skipped a beat. The expression on his face also changed slightly. Oh no! This black aura, it was the evil aura of the Dark Palace. Rin Jianying. Ren family, Dark Palace. No wonder! Rin Jianying could so smoothly seize the position of the head of the Rin family, and also so smoothly split the world with the imperial family in the Heaven Realm. With the help of the Dark Palace, it probably wouldn't take long. The imperial family would have to lower their heads to Rin Jianying. This Rin Jianying really couldn't be underestimated. Ah! Huangfu Sheng suddenly let out a miserable scream. Qiao Jin's gaze immediately looked over. He saw that Huangfu Sheng's face was pale, his hands forcefully blocking in front of his chest. An obvious black aura suddenly penetrated his body. Blood gushed out in an instant. Qiao Jin lifted his foot, wanting to rush over. However, the woman's soft laughter rang in their ears. "I'm really sorry. You two, be obedient and you won't have to suffer so much." This voice was very close. Qiao Jin suddenly raised his head. He met Rin Jianying's sharp and beautiful eyes. She curled her lips at him and smiled sweetly. However, there was a bloodthirsty sneer in his eyes. Qiao Jin quickly retreated. It was actually this powerful. To actually be able to use the mysterious yin energy of Dark Ghost Palace properly, his movements were a step too slow. The power that erupted from Rin Jianying shook the surrounding air. Suddenly, he felt as if something was squeezing his chest. The next moment, blood flowed out from Qiao Jin's mouth. His body also staggered a little. "Don't worry, I'll be gentle. Besides, I don't want your lives." Rin Jianying was still smiling faintly. "What I want is just to use the two of you to trick Miss Gu to come over. Stop struggling. None of you will be able to escape." The smile at the corner of Rin Jianying's mouth grew wider. She walked in the direction of Qiao Jin and Huang Fusheng. Every step she took, the black aura that lingered around her body became stronger. It carried a cold killing intent. At this moment, a cold and melodious voice rang out leisurely. "I didn't expect that I would have such a big face for Miss Rin to spend so much effort to trick me." Chapter 45-44. That voice seemed to carry a smile, but it was filled with extreme chilliness. Every word and sentence could directly strike into one's heart. "I'm also very curious. Is it all of us who can't escape, or eldest Miss Rin?" "Can't escape?" The low laughter turned colder and colder. "Why not? Let's give it a try." When Rin Jianying heard this voice, her expression instantly changed. But very quickly, a smile surfaced on her face. She stopped in her tracks as she looked towards the direction of the voice. She saw the horizon from far to near, a huge nine-tailed fox descending from the sky. A fiery figure leapt down from the back of the nine-tailed fox, devastatingly beautiful, like a dream or fantasy. Eldest Miss Gu. On seeing the person, Ren Jianying's expression changed several times. She restrained the majestic, profound waves as she smiled at Yi Qing Luo. "It's really difficult to meet you." Yi Qing Luo slowly walked towards her. Her footsteps were neither fast nor slow. The expression on her face was calm and indifferent, without much fluctuation of emotions. "Eldest Miss Ren has put in so much effort just to meet me. It shows that eldest Miss Ren absolutely has true love for me." Yi Qing Luo replied with a smile. Her long and narrow eyes rose, but there wasn't any warmth in her eyes. She stopped in front of Ren Jianying. The two of them exchanged glances. Both of them were grinning. In the dark, the undercurrent was surging. "If I don't come, wouldn't I disappoint eldest Miss Rin?" Yi Qing Luo said. Rin Jianying laughed lightly. "Actually, we have the same goal. Why not make a deal?" Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. "Oh!" "Ren Jianying, I want Rin Jiaming and you want old Master Huangfu. How about we exchange people?" "Patriarch Ren." Huangfu Fengyan's expression changed as she cried out involuntarily, "Grandfather cannot be handed over to them." Originally, she thought that this was a sentence that touched the heaven and earth. But immediately following that, the second half of Huangfu Fengyan's sentence came out from her mouth. "Huangfu family is still waiting for grandfather's words. If we let grandfather call for them now, there's a possibility that grandfather will find the next successor from those two bastards." After all, there was Huangfu Jin. In the current Huangfu family, the only one who had golden pupils and was recognized by the ancestor as the successor, whether it was the old man or the elders of the Huangfu family. They would probably choose to support Huangfu Jin because of his appearance. Most people with absolute power and strength would only be loyal to their family. "That's your family's business. It has nothing to do with me." Ren Jianying glanced at him indifferently, her eyes filled with disdain and mockery. Huangfu Fengyan was both angry and annoyed. She clenched her fists and said, "Didn't you say that you wanted to cooperate with the Huangfu clan? You can't just care about your own interests and ignore us." "Fengyan." Huangfu Qifei's elegant brows furrowed as he reached out to grab Huangfu Fengyan's arm, signaling her to shut up. Rin Jianying swept her gaze in the direction of the Huangfu clan. His expression was extremely arrogant. "Cooperation has always been driven by interests. Why can't I just care about my own interests?" Ren Jianying rolled her eyes at her. as if mocking her 5 fingers and stupidity. Following that, his attention returned back to Yi Qing Luo. What do you think of this suggestion of mine? I feel that. There's no need. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she opened her mouth. His footsteps were getting closer and closer to Ren Jianying, until he stood in front of Ren Jianying. End of this chapter. Chapter 45-45. Yi Qing Luo leaned forward slightly as she got closer to Ren Jianying. She leaned close to Ren Jianying's ear. She laughed softly. This distance was extremely close, so close that Yi Qing Luo could clearly feel that when she got closer, Ren Jianying's body had turned stiff. Even his breathing had become a lot more hurried and messy. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as her pink lips curled into a smile, which didn't look like a smile. Eldest young Miss Ren seems very anxious. Her words had just ended. Ren Jianying hurriedly took a step back. Her breathing and emotions were obviously even more messed up. Yi Qing Luo took another step closer as she maintained the distance between her and Ren Jianying as she suppressed her voice. Ren Jianying is the person I want to protect now. If I give him to you, just because you say so, wouldn't I lose my face? The young lady's tone and voice was obviously joking. Ren Jianying was just about to open her mouth. Suddenly, she felt a chill on her neck. A ray of light flashed past her eyes. Ren Jianying lowered her eyes and saw a flame feather fan pressed against her neck. The handle of the fan had a dagger's length-sharp blade as it stuck close to her skin. Ren Jianying's body turned even more stiff as even her voice had a slight change. What do you want to do? To catch the bandits. First catch the ringleader. Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly as her voice was clear and melodious, totally not looking like she was using a dagger to press against someone's neck. Ren Jianying's fingers clenched tightly as she suppressed the panic in her heart to keep herself calm. It had been a long time since she had lost her composure like this. She shouldn't be like this. No matter what happened, she would absolutely be able to deal with it calmly. Ren Jianying shut her eyes tightly as her voice had already calmed down. Eldest young Miss Gu, even if you capture me, it's actually not of much use. You've seen it for yourself. The 3 Huangfu siblings have deep enmity towards me. Even if it's what I say, they won't listen to it. The meaning behind her words. Even if they captured her, the 3 Huangfu siblings would also take action. Oh, Yi Qing Luo casually replied with an "oh" word and innocently blinked her eyes. I don't intend to capture you to negotiate terms with them. She paused for a moment, and the corners of her mouth curled up into an extremely shallow arc. He was extremely evil. Her tone and expression seemed to be mocking the Huangfu clan. She didn't put them in her eyes at all. That kind of ostentatious confidence made Ren Jianying feel uneasy. As expected, in the next instant, the girl moved even closer. Even the sharp blade on her neck was pressed a little closer to the skin on her neck. Call the person behind you over. Let's have a face-to-face chat for a while. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows at her. Ren Jianying's expression froze. What do you mean? I don't understand what you're talking about. There are no outsiders here, so there's no need to pretend. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as she beamed. The person behind you has schemed against me for such a long time, still not intending to reveal his true face. Ren Jianying's eyelashes fluttered. Why are you asking this? I want to kill the person behind you. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Ren Jianying. Pausing for a moment, she shook her head. I don't have any person behind me. Everything was arranged by me alone. The number of times I've crossed hands with the Palace of Darkness is even more than the amount of salt you've eaten. Do you think? I can't tell that your body has already been contaminated by the evil Yin Qi? Yi Qing Luo sneered. Do you think I can't tell that the reason why you're able to control the entire heaven realm in such a short period of time is because the Palace of Darkness made use of the evil Yin Qi to raise your profound grade and used a forbidden curse to enhance you, which is why you could be so successful. Chapter 45-46. Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers lightly tapped on the sharp blade. Looking at the blood flowing out from the lady's neck, her lips curled. Eldest young Miss Rin, aren't you afraid that, after you've lost your value, secluded Darkness Palace will directly swallow up everything that you've worked so hard for? Rin, Jennying's pupils constricted. Eldest young Miss Gu also knows how to sow discord. Whether it's to sow discord or not, you know very well in your heart. Yi Qing Luo shrugged. Anyway, the person who loses everything by then isn't me. Rin, Jennying remained silent for a moment as her expression turned ugly. What do you mean? Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved as her lips curled into a teasing arc. She slowly leaned closer to Ren Jennying. Her voice seemed to be bewitching as it was suppressed to an extremely low tone. After all, secluded Darkness Palace's existence has already exceeded the boundary of your prediction, isn't it? Ren Jennying's body suddenly stiffened as her eyes widened, staring at Yi Qing Luo in disbelief. Her eyes revealed astonishment and astonishment. Between her eyes, there were some unnecessary emotions as the undercurrents were surging. You. Her lips trembled slightly as she wanted to open her mouth but didn't know how to ask. In her eyes, there was an obvious hesitation. There's still a lot of things that I know. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she patted her shoulder. If I didn't guess wrongly, I should also exceed the boundary of your prediction, that category. Plus, Ren Jiaming chose me. So you panicked, targeting the Gu residents, several times scheming against me. Trying to get rid of this unknown factor, right? Following Yi Qing Luo's words, each and every word was spat out from her mouth. Rin Jennying's face was deathly pale. That was the panic after her thoughts were exposed. That was the panic after a secret which had been hidden for many years was discovered. Yi Qing Luo had been paying attention to her expression. She was almost certain that right from the start her guess was right. She laughed lightly as her gaze was cold and piercing. Unfortunately, this unknown factor. You can't get rid of it. Rin Jennying suddenly raised her hand as she pressed on Yi Qing Luo's wrist, which was holding the glower flame fan. She used a lot of strength. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she stared into her eyes and said word by word, In your past life, you failed because of your cowardice, and in this life, you will repeat the same mistake because of your ambition. How did you? Rin Jennying pursed her lips tightly. Even her eyes were a little scarlet. Indistinctly, a wisp of black, mysterious Yin Qi seeped out. Before Yi Qing Luo said it out, she was still hoping for a fluke. Perhaps Yi Qing Luo's words, which had a hidden meaning, was just to trick her. But now she knew. Yi Qing Luo really knew about her hidden secret. She thought that it was impossible for anyone in the world to know the secret. But Yi Qing Luo knew. Her secret had been found out by someone. Miss Gu, if you are smart enough, you should know what to do. The smile on Yi Qing Luo's lips deepened. Scram. Tell the person behind you, if he wants something, he can come and get it himself. After hiding for so long, it's time for him to see the light of day, she finished speaking. He moved his wrist slightly. A wave of profound energy rippled. She pushed Rin Jennying away. Rin Jennying staggered as she fell onto the ground. She had not regained her senses as she sat on the ground in a daze. Her eyes were filled with shock as she looked at Yi Qing Luo in panic. In her eyes, there were turbulent waves. Chapter 45-47. Yi Qing Luo turned around and walked towards Qiao Jin and Huang Fusheng's direction. She put her hands behind her back and walked slowly. The expression on his face was extremely calm. "Let's go." She spoke to the two. Qiao Jin took a look at Ren Jianying, who had fallen onto the ground, and looked at Yi Qing Luo, just like this. "What else do you intend to do?" Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes at him. "Kill Ren Jianying." Qiao Jin shrugged his shoulders. "You can decide. I don't care." Yi Qing Luo walked straight ahead as she said, "Let Ren Jianying pass the message. An ambitious person like her, over at the secluded palace, will die sooner or later. Yushi Palace wouldn't let anyone with ulterior motives exist. Ren Jianying was obviously not a woman who would submit willingly. Now, the two sides were cooperating happily. That was because both sides could make use of each other. Ren Jianying, keeping him by her side, was like keeping a ticking time bomb. The people from the Palace of Darkness would naturally not let Ren Jianying go. There was no need for her to kill Ren Jianying. After all, she was also Ren Jiaming's sister. After all, Ren Jiaming had taken care of old man Song's body for such a long time. Even if he didn't want to give face to the monk, he still had to give face to the Buddha. So, he would give Ren Jianying's life to the Palace of Darkness. Huang Fu Shen lowered his eyes in guilt. "I'm sorry. I acted on my own and made you come all the way here. I understand." Yi Qing Luo waved her hand. "Those who are able to cooperate with the Palace of Darkness are jackals of the same tribe. The thing that the Palace of Darkness likes to play with the most is the human heart. The only person who can make you leave the Gu residence despite knowing that the situation is dangerous is Old Master Huang Fu. In the entire Huang Fu clan, these two cousins only cared about Huang Fu Jintian the most, something that could elicit a reaction from both of them. It could only be Huang Fu Jintian. Huang Fu Sheng looked in Qiao Jin's direction and hesitated for a moment before saying, "Qiao Jin seems to be also because of his mother." "Mother?" Yi Qing Luo looked at Qiao Jin. Yi Qing Luo had never asked about the relationship between Qiao Jin and the Huang Fu family. She had never heard Qiao Jin mention anything about his mother. The Huang Fu family didn't just use old Master Huang Fu as a bargaining chip, and even dragged Qiao Jin's mother? Looks like this matter was a little complicated. Yi Qing Luo walked to Qiao Jin's side and placed her hand on Qiao Jin's shoulder. "Tell me, what's your plan now?" Yi Qing Luo's voice wasn't considered soft. Not far away, the three Huang Fu brothers had ugly expressions on their faces. They looked at each other, then at Ren Jianying in unison. The reason why they were here was because of the god of war. It was all because he believed Ren Jianying's words. They were relying on Ren Jianying. But now, Ren Jianying, his face was ashen and pale. His eyes stared unblinkingly at Yi Qing Luo. It was as if he had suffered an extremely severe shock. Earlier, Ren Jianying was easily subdued by Yi Qing Luo. Even Ren Jianying wasn't Yi Qing Luo's opponent. Wouldn't that be the expressions of the three instantly turned extremely ugly as they swiftly turned their gazes towards Qiao Jin. Yi Qing Luo was asking Qiao Jin for his opinion. As long as Qiao Jin didn't pursue the matter, Yi Qing Luo would definitely not make a move. But Qiao Jin, let them beg for mercy from Qiao Jin. How could they do it? For them, Qiao Jin was a child born from a lowly servant. What rights did he have to become their younger brother? And what rights did he have to become the future successor of the Huang Fu family? Chapter 45-48. A person whom he totally disdained. Now he actually wanted them to beg for mercy? Even if their bodies were icy cold, they could clearly feel the murderous aura raging around them. They were unable to convince themselves to open their mouths. On the other side, Qiao Jin glanced sideways as he looked at the devastatingly beautiful face which was just inches away from him. The young lady's hand was casually placed on his shoulder. The corners of her lips were curled into a teasing arc. Apparently, She had intentionally raised her volume when she asked that question earlier, intentionally stirring up panic in the Huangfu family. Qiao Jin merely shot a glance and took a step back, widening the distance between him and Yi Qing Luo. He raised his hand and patted his own shoulder as his deep eyes looked towards the horizon at that huge nine-tailed fox who was standing in the sky. I still want to live a little longer. Just say what you want. Don't touch me. At the instant when Yi Qing Luo's arm rested on his shoulder, Qiao Jin felt that his back was about to be pierced into a hornet's nest by some kind of emotion. The Overlord was still by the side. Did Yi Qing Luo want him to die? Yi Qing Luo smiled as she waved her hand. At most he would use his eyes to stare at you, but he wouldn't dare to really do anything to you. Qiao Jin expressed that with just this glare, he could already feel death waving at him, all right? The two of them were still chatting as though there was no one else around. This was simply belittling the surrounding group of people into dregs. The three Huangfu siblings' expressions turned uglier by the minute. Finally, unable to tolerate it any longer, Huangfu Fengyan's fingers clenched tightly as she stared at Yi Qing Luo with a venomous gaze. Huangfu Jin, if you touch us, you should know the consequences. Qiao Jin and Yi Qing Luo were talking. Their voices suddenly stopped. Their gazes turned towards Huangfu Fengyan. His ordinary face, under the piercingly cold eyes, actually appeared a bit strange and treacherous. Huangfu Fengyan was so shocked that her face turned pale, but she still forced herself to continue speaking. We can't touch old master, but we can still touch your mother. If you don't persuade Yi Qing Luo, if anything happens to us, we will return it to your mother 100 times. You can try. Let's see how long the old man can protect your mother. As Huangfu Fengyan spat out the words one by one, the crowd was stunned. The air around Qiao Jin seemed to have condensed into frost. The emotions in the depths of his eyes were dark, like a whirlpool. It was as if it wanted to devour everything. This was the first time Yi Qing Luo saw Qiao Jin's emotions fluctuating so much. What are you staring at? Huangfu Jin, you are an inauspicious person. You are a bastard. You. Pa. Suddenly, a clear and resounding slap resounded. The sound of the slap was so crisp that it almost echoed throughout the entire space. Huangfu Fengyan, your mouth is so dirty. Do you want me to help you wash it? A woman wearing a blue dress appeared. The woman held a crescent-shaped scythe that shone with black light. When Qiao Jin saw the person who had arrived, the icy cold expression on his face instantly dissipated. The people who came were Yan Xiaoyi and Gu Zishi, who had followed behind Yi Qing Luo and finally managed to catch up. Yan Xiaoyi strode over to Qiao Jin's side, blocking him behind her. Following that, she stabbed the black scythe into the ground as she sneered at Huang Fengyan. If you dare to scold one more time, I'll cut off your tongue in minutes. That slap made half of Huang Fengyan's ears buzz. The scorching pain made her unable to open her mouth to speak. The moment she moved, it affected her muscles. It was so painful that it tore her heart apart. Chapter 45-49. Qiao Jin wrapped his arms around Yan Xiaoyi's waist. He placed his head on her shoulder. A light laugh came out from his lips. That laughter was filled with obvious joy. The coldness in his body had already faded. The expression on his face had also returned to his usual look. Now he had Xiaoyi. He was no longer alone. The lonely days that he had been through, it would not appear again. Feeling the man's aura, it gradually calmed down. Yan Xiaoyi patted the back of his hand and pacified him. Be good, I'm here. Whoever dares to insult you and your mother, I'll swing my sickle and they will definitely die. She patted Qiao Jin's hand. Then she raised her head and looked towards the direction of the three Huangfu siblings, as one of the 4 heavenly families. Now that the Rin family has power in the heaven realm, your Huangfu family has to rely on the powerhouses who were once on equal footing to survive. No wonder you're not able to become the next successor of the Huangfu family. This sentence made the three Huangfu siblings' faces turn gloomy. Trying to use Jin's mother to threaten Jin? Go ahead and try. As long as you dare to touch Jin's mother, we will absolutely kill you directly. Yan Xiaoyi's eyes were filled with coldness. You. Huangfu Dongyu clenched his teeth, but had no way to refute her words. Qiao Jin's mother was their last bargaining chip. They indeed didn't dare to move. Trying to sow discord? By the side, Rin Jianying, who had regained her composure, opened her mouth slowly. The current her was no longer as flustered as before when her secret was exposed by Yi Qing Luo. If one looked closely, they would be able to see a complacent smile on her brows. Complacent? Yi Qing Luo's brows rose slightly. She had been paying attention to Rin Jianying's situation. Rin Jianying had been immersed in the fear of her secret being exposed. Her emotions had been unable to calm down, but at that moment earlier, she seemed to have gained some confidence. Yi Qing Luo's brows twitched as she suddenly thought of something and immediately opened her mouth. Go! Just as she finished her words, a voice rang out. All of a sudden, the entire ground caved in. Yi Qing Luo's feet were in the air as she swiftly fell downwards. Gravel flew everywhere as the mountains collapsed and the ground cracked. The next moment, her waist tightened. Her body was pulled into a warm embrace. Yi Qing Luo hooked her arm around his neck. The man picked her up by the waist, and with a sudden leap he landed on the ground. Ah, Xian! Yi Qing Luo's little head popped out from his arms. Where is this place? DMO, Xian put her down on the ground, but his other hand was still hugging her waist tightly. Array! Another formation. Yi Qing Luo surveyed the surroundings. Earlier, when I saw Rin Jianying's sudden confident look, I already guessed it. The palace of gloomy darkness had countless forbidden spells and spells. This was especially true for forbidden formations that defied the will of the heavens. Since Ran Jianying was working with the palace of gloomy darkness, then he used all sorts of methods to trick Huangfu Shang and Qiao Jin out of the Gu residence. He had already achieved his goal of luring her here. How could he not have prepared a foolproof plan? Moreover, this time it was definitely not a small fight. Rin Jianying controlled the heavenly realm, which meant that the heavenly realm was already in the hands of the Dark Palace. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness had revealed her secret to the public. Apparently, they were anxious to get something from her. The mastermind behind the Palace of Gloomy Darkness finally couldn't take it anymore. Now, the place they were in was a stretch of empty space. It was a patch of gray, and they couldn't see the scene in front of them clearly. Chapter 4550. Is this an illusion? Yi Qing Luo couldn't see the surroundings clearly, so she retracted her vision and raised her head to look at DMO Xian. If this is an illusion, then are you? Real or fake? DMO Xian's wrist, which was locked on her waist, suddenly tightened. He pressed her petite body firmly into his arms. Following that, he lowered his head and placed it on her shoulder. His thin lips were very close to her earlobe. His warm breath splashed onto the young lady's skin. Lil Luo isn't always able to easily differentiate whether I'm real or fake. So now, Lil Luo, tell me, am I real or fake? The man's low and hoarse voice was very magnetic and alluring. As he spoke, he gave out a low and light laugh. Yi Qing Luo's petite body trembled slightly. There was a scorching feeling on the skin on her neck. She rolled her eyes at the man as she raised her hand to block the man's mouth, which was on her neck, and pushed his head away. Fake, fake! Maya Xian is not this kind of beast who can be aroused any time and anywhere. She still didn't know what kind of array this was. He was just messing around there. What if this illusion was something? The outside world could see it clearly. Wouldn't it be too embarrassing? Looks like Lil Luo still doesn't understand me well enough. Dmo Xian's thin lips rose slightly as his face was handsome and elegant. His hand slid upwards and held onto Yi Qing Luo's little hand, which was nudging his head. When facing Lil Luo, I'm a beast. Yi Qing Luo. She admitted defeat. She slapped away Dmo Xian's messing around hand. Yi Qing Luo walked forward, and as she walked, she looked around. Stop fooling around. Let's find out what this place is first. Everyone should be scattered in different parts of the array, so we have to find everyone first to ascertain everyone's safety. Dmo Xian's hands hugged Yi Qing Luo's slender waist tightly from behind. Following that, he placed his head on her slender back. He sighed softly. I feel that I haven't been alone with you for a long time. I'm really not happy. Yi Qing Luo halted her footsteps as she held onto the man's large palm and turned around. She raised her head, and her glistening eyes met Dmo Xian's eyes. Recently, there are indeed a lot of things. She knew what Dmo Xian was worried about. Ever since they arrived in the Earth domain, she had always been separated from Dmo Xian. It wasn't easy for them to meet. Then, they immediately separated due to other matters. Dmo Xian missed him. How could she not miss him as well? Yi Qing Luo's arms encircled the man's waist, and her voice softened. Everything will be settled soon. From now on, we will be together every day and never be separated again. Yi Qing Luo buried her head in the man's arms. She did not notice that Dmo Xian's lips had slightly curled upwards because of her gentle words. Also, his pair of peach blossom eyes that were like a pool of spring water seemed to be faintly discernible as he glanced at a certain place in the sky. It seemed to be a provocation. It also seemed to be a warning. Then his thin lips curled up again. He buried his head in the young girl's neck. I feel that this time is still very far away. How will Lil Luo air comfort my lonely heart? It was rare to see her man acting coquettishly. Yi Qing Luo's brows were overflowing with tenderness. She laughed softly. Her hands cupped the man's face as she slowly placed her pink lips on his and planted a kiss on his lips. All right, I'll make it up to you after we return. Be good. Dmo Xian's large palm locked onto Yi Qing Luo as he deepened the kiss. His peach blossom eyes were filled with smiles. End of this chapter. Chapter 4551. Looking at the man's complacent look, Yi Qing Luo's expression turned even more gentle and tender. This man was addicted to acting coquettishly. Yi Qing Luo pinched his face. All right, let's go find out how to leave this godforsaken place. This time, Dmo Xian didn't pull her along to display his affection. Instead, he held her little hand and followed behind her obediently. What? What's going on? Xiao Yi, hold on tight. Zishi, don't move. The earth quaked and the mountains shook as the ground kept on collapsing. Yan Xiao Yi and the rest frantically found a safe place as they stabilized themselves. About the time it took for an incense stick to burn. Only then did the shaking of the earth and mountains slowly stop. Qiao Jin held the dagger which was stabbed into the stone wall while the other hand held on to Yan Xiao Yi. The both of them were hanging on the edge of the cliff. Below them, because of the collapse earlier, had turned into a bottomless abyss. And on the other side of the cliff, Gu Zishi and Huang Fusheng were hugging each other tightly. The place where the both of them were standing had cracked stone walls, as though a slight movement would cause them to fall. The surroundings had turned into a pile of ruins because of the earlier tremors. The place where the four of them were at was extremely dangerous. There was a possibility that a slight movement would cause the next wave of collapse. Then it would cause the next wave of collapse. Yan Xiao Yi maintained the calmness of her breathing as her eyes surveyed the surroundings. Finally, her gaze landed on a group of people on another mountain not too far away. Huangfu family and Ren Jianying. Ren Jianying stood right at the front as her face was filled with an unconcealable cold smirk. Yan Xiao, Yi silently cursed him for being sinister. She immediately raised her head and looked at Xiao Jin. How is it? Can you still hold on? Xiao Jin replied, No problem, let's go up first. MN, hold on tight, I'll do it. Yan Xiao Yi's slender hand moved as the black sickle in her hand suddenly swung upwards. The black sickle blade swept past as a blue light floated, only to see the black sickle blade piercing into the highest rock wall. The gravel rolled down with a crashing sound, as though it was about to collapse for the second time because of the black sickle blade's collision. The both of their bodies started to fall bit by bit. Crack! There was a slight noise. It seemed like the black scythe blade was stuck somewhere on the rock wall. The moment Xiao Jin's dagger, which was supporting the weight of two people, lost its strength due to the crack in the rock wall. Both of their bodies were entangled by a blue ribbon that the blade of the black scythe had drawn. The other side of the ribbon was wrapped around the black scythe blade. He steadied himself in midair. The two of them took a deep breath and followed the ribbon to the edge of the cliff. The sound of rocks tumbling into the abyss sounded as if the cliff was about to collapse again. On the other side, the two of them also helped each other to leave the most dangerous area. However, as he stood on this side of the cliff, he felt a chill run down his spine. The four of them still did not dare to act rashly. The four of them surveyed their surroundings, then looked at the group of people on the opposite hill. His expression changed slightly. Where are Qing Luo and Overlord? Why don't I see them? Earlier, I seemed to have seen the Overlord charging towards Luo. Gu Zishi was searching the surroundings as she said, It should be the Overlord bringing Luo to some safe place. The Overlord has Little Nine. Qing Luo also has Chi Chi and the rest, so they should be fine. The few of them looked at the mountaintop in front and immediately leapt up, heading towards the direction of Ren, Jianying, and the rest. Ren, Jianying, and the rest's faces were filled with complacency. They still want to look for Yi Qing Luo. They probably don't know that Yi Qing Luo has already been sent to another space by our palace lord. Huangfu Fengyan laughed complacently. Add bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 4552. Without Yi Qing Luo around, can they still survive? Huangfu Dongyu's lips curled into a sinister sneer. Huangfu Fengyan sneered, Of course not. These few trash in the lower realm like Nirvana realm, they might be experts, but this is heaven realm. Who do they think they are? We can finally kill those two eyesores. It's so satisfying. Huangfu Dongyu and Huangfu Fengyan exchanged glances as they smiled. Don't be happy too early. Huangfu Qi Fei's gentle face turned gloomy as he said calmly, Haven't you noticed? The Overlord has disappeared too. After Huangfu Qi Fei's reminder, the two of them then reacted. Yi Qing Luo wasn't the only one who disappeared in the quake. There was also the Overlord. Huangfu Fengyan's complacent smile froze on her face. She clenched her fists tightly as she gritted her teeth in anger. That woman! What's so good about that woman? The Overlord is actually so protective of her. With the Overlord following her, even if it's that array, there's no way to kill that woman. That's right. Who said we're going to kill her? Ren Jianying sneered as she raised her chin. Her half-squinted beautiful eyes flashed past a trace of ruthlessness. Even if the Overlord entered the array, as long as the palace lord isn't willing to let them out, there's no way they can leave that space. As she said that, she smiled as she looked towards a certain direction behind the crowd. There sat a tall figure dressed in a black robe, entirely shrouded in darkness. He held a bronze mirror in his hands. Both eyes were staring at the bronze mirror without blinking. Wisps of black aura constantly lingered around his body, rolling and surging. When Ren Jianying looked at that person, a pair of beautiful eyes revealed a faintly discernible charm. Her lips curled into a smile. Her condition was excellent, perfect. It made her exquisite and beautiful face look even more beautiful and dazzling. Anyone could see that. Rin Jianying was interested in him. However, the man who was stared at by such a beautiful lady with an inviting gaze full of tender feelings didn't even raise his head, as his gaze was fixed on the bronze mirror, as if he had seen something. Under the black robe, the pair of sinister black eyes were instantly covered with frost. The cold air around his body also dispersed at this moment. Suddenly, he slammed the bronze mirror into the ground. His aura also followed suit and became filled with killing intent. For a moment, the atmosphere became extremely oppressive and strange. The three Huangfu siblings didn't dare to speak again. Ren Jianying hid the seductive look in her eyes and glanced at him and the bronze mirror that was pressed on the ground. If her memory served her right, the copper mirror in his hand was used to see what was happening inside the spell formation, which meant that he could directly see everything that Yi Qing Luo and DMO Xian had experienced after they entered the array. After the palace master of Gloomy Palace sent him into the formation and into another space, he held the bronze mirror and looked at the situation inside the formation. How could it suddenly? Why is he so angry? Did he see something in the bronze mirror? Why do I feel like this palace lord of secluded Darkness Palace was extremely concerned about that young lady called Yi Qing Luo? At the thought of this, a trace of unwillingness flashed across Rin Jianying's eyes. She was interested in the palace lord of secluded Darkness Palace because she felt that in this world, only someone like the palace lord of secluded Darkness Palace, someone with status and identity, was worthy of her. She was merely working together with the palace lord of secluded Darkness Palace, tasting some benefits from the palace lord. Chapter 4553. If she could be with the palace master of secluded Darkness Palace, she became the mistress of the Palace of Abyss. It would be even easier for her to get what she wanted. She wouldn't have to submit herself to an elder of the Palace of Gloomy Shadows who could only say a few words. Thinking of this, Ren Jianying calmed herself down and put on a beautiful smile as she walked towards the palace master of the secluded palace. Her steps were slow and graceful. When she walked in front of the palace master of the Gloomy Palace, she leaned forward and smiled gently at him. "Palace master, do you think I'm right?" When Rin Jianying leaned forward, her shiny black hair cascaded down. The fragrance of a woman seeped into the nose of the palace master of Gloomy Palace. There were even a few strands that landed on the back of the man's hand. The palace master of the Netherworld Palace frowned and looked up. Under the black robe, his pitch-black eyes stared coldly at Ren Jianying. The emotions in his eyes were extremely calm. There was not the slightest fluctuation. "Get out of my way," he said, his voice cold and authoritative. Rin Jianying's smile froze on her face, but very quickly his smile returned, and he slowly straightened his body, putting some distance between them. She then asked with a smile, "Palace master, do you think I'm right?" The eyes of the palace master of the Netherworld Palace were indifferent as he asked word by word, "What did you say?" Ren Jianying, his face contorted in embarrassment. She tried her best to please him. He didn't even notice her. Ren Jianying took a deep breath as she maintained her smile. "I've told Huang Fu and the other young masters and young miss that as long as Palace Lord refuses to release them, Yi Qing Luo and the Overlord will not be able to escape from that array, right?" She paused and then continued, "Palace Master, your formation is the best in the world. Even venerable sovereigns are no match for you." The eyes of the palace master of the Netherworld Palace dimmed. He hung his head again. He shifted his gaze away from Ren Jianying and stared unblinkingly at the bronze mirror on the ground. His aura became much colder. Ren Jianying was very sensitive to other people's emotions. Naturally, he felt the flames on the body of the palace head getting colder and colder. She hurriedly changed the topic. "Palace Lord will definitely be able to achieve your wish, but those two from Huangfu family are here, and they seem to have sensed that Yi Qing Luo's disappearance is related to us. I wonder how Palace Lord is going to deal with those 4 people? My wish has been fulfilled. The voice of the palace master of Netherworld Palace was a little low. He gently placed his hand on the back of the bronze mirror. His tone was filled with disappointment. He was afraid that he would never be able to fulfill his wish in this lifetime. He suppressed the unnecessary emotions that he shouldn't have and followed Ren Jianying's words to look forward. On the other side, Yan Shao-yi and the other 3 had already landed on the mountain that they were on. Yan Shao-yi wielded the black scythe and charged over aggressively. It was as if they were going to fight. The pupils of the palace master of the Netherworld Palace constricted. How to deal with them? They were the people whom Yi Qing Luo valued the most. If they were hurt, Yi Qing Luo would be upset, especially when the people who hurt them were his men. Those 2 young masters from the Huangfu family, Palace Lord had previously promised to hand them over to the Huangfu family to deal with. Those 3 are now waiting for Palace Lord's opinion. Ren Jianying sensed the hesitation in the palace master of the Netherworld Palace. She smiled and reminded gently, "Listen to Palace Lord's words." The palace master of the Netherworld Palace's eyes wavered even more. Chapter 4554. After some time, his fingers suddenly clenched tightly. The bronze mirror on the ground was once again held in his palm. He spoke calmly, "Up to you." Ren Jianying's red lips rose as her voice turned coquettish. "Then I shall make this decision on behalf of Palace Lord." The Palace Lord's gaze fell back onto the bronze mirror as he didn't bother about Ren Jianying. Ren Jianying, who didn't get any response, flashed past her eyes with a sliver of embarrassment and humiliation. But she didn't reveal any of it on her face. Instead, she smiled and bowed towards him as she turned around and returned to the front of the 3 Huangfu siblings. "Patriarch Ren, what were you talking about with that Palace Lord earlier?" Huangfu Fengyan's gaze turned towards the man dressed in black robe. Anyone could tell what she was thinking in her eyes. Ren Jianying saw the emotions in Huangfu Fengyan's eyes as she snorted in disdain. But the smile on her lips was very shallow, nothing much, just asking Palace Lord how he intends to deal with those 4 people. After all, they are Yi Qing Luo's good brothers. What did Palace Lord say? Huangfu Fengyan's expression changed slightly when she heard that. She knew the Palace Lord's feelings towards Yi Qing Luo, if it was because of Yi Qing Luo's relationship with Palace Lord. But if he didn't let them do anything to Huangfu Shang and Huangfu Jin, they really didn't dare to act rashly. Ren Jianying's eyelids drooped slightly as she seemed a little shy and sweet. Palace Lord said, "Everything is up to me." Huangfu Fengyan's expression froze as her eyes were filled with disbelief. Ren Jianying's intention was extremely obvious. Coupled with her shy and timid expression, Chu Yunxing couldn't help but sigh. It was hard not to misunderstand. But wasn't that Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace in love with Yi Qing Luo? Palace Lord really dotes on Patriarch Ren. Huangfu Chi Fei suddenly stood in front of Huangfu Fengyan as he gave an elegant smile. "I wonder how does Patriarch Ren wish to deal with those 4 people?" Ren Jianying arrogantly raised her chin as her brows were filled with cold arrogance. "Since I've promised you on behalf of Seclusion Palace that I will let you deal with those 2 Huangfu bastards, I will keep my promise." Huangfu Fengyan felt that something was amiss. She frowned and said, "Ren family head, are you sure Palace Mistress really?" She had yet to finish her words. Huangfu Chi Fei pressed down hard on her arm. The strength of his 5 fingers seemed to have pierced into her flesh. Huangfu Fengyan's face turned pale from the pain, and she couldn't say a single word. Huangfu Chi Fei smiled warmly and continued Huangfu Fengyan's words. "Many thanks, Patriarch Ren. Then leave the 4 of them to our Huangfu clan." Rin Jianying's ice-cold gaze swept past Huangfu Qifei and landed on Huangfu Fengyan. She sneered and curled her lips, her red nail lightly pressed against her lips. The Huangfu family really needs a smart person like you to take charge of the situation. Huangfu Qifei's smile grew even wider. Many thanks for the praise, Patriarch Rin. Rin Jianying waved her hand arrogantly, turned around and walked towards the palace master of Twilight Palace. He looked at her back as she left. Huangfu Fengyan's expression was extremely ugly as she bit her lower lip and asked softly, "Third brother, what do you mean by this?" "It's fine if you're stupid at home, but in the current situation, you're still stupid. Even if you die, you deserve it." Huangfu Qifei slowly let go of her wrist, and the space between his brows was still as warm as jade. But the words that came out of his mouth were bone-chilling. Chapter 45-55. Huangfu Fengyan took a deep breath. "Third brother, I know that we need to borrow her strength, but she is only one of the 4 great Tian families, and our status is not lower than hers." "Shut up!" Huangfu Qifei snorted coldly. "What you said was in the past, but now there are no 4 great families. There is only a Ren family." Huangfu Fengyan stared at Huangfu Qifei in a daze. After a long time, she finally spoke with a hoarse voice. "Third brother, do you want to fight Big Brother for the position of Patriarch of the Huangfu clan?" "Rob?" Huangfu Qifei smiled warmly, and there was faint warmth between his brows. "Didn't Big Brother seize his current position from Huangfu Jin as well?" Huangfu Fengyan widened her eyes in shock. Huangfu Qifei moved closer to her. Lifting his hand, he placed it on her shoulder and patted her gently. "Since this position doesn't belong to Huangfu Jin, it can belong to Big Brother." "Why can it belong to me?" "In terms of strength and strategy, I am above Big Brother, am I not?" "Fourth sister, think carefully about how you want to choose your future path. Third brother really appreciates you." As he finished speaking, Huangfu Qifei wore a warm smile and walked in the direction of the 4 people who had come to greet him. Huangfu Fengyan was stunned on the spot. His heart was thumping nonstop. What did third brother mean by that? Was he forcing her to make a choice? From a long time ago, she knew that this seemingly warm and gentle third brother wasn't as simple as he seemed on the surface. They also knew that third brother had always been smarter than them, but he had never thought that he would be interested in the position of patriarch of the Huangfu family. In a vast and empty space that stretched as far as the eye could see, Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian walked for a long time, but the surrounding situation didn't change at all. Yi Qing Luo didn't sense any other signs of life. She tugged at Dmo Xian's sleeve. "Xian, isn't something amiss? No matter how we walk, we seem to be going in circles. Not to mention meeting other people." Dmo Xian halted his footsteps and lowered his eyes to look at her. "You finally discovered it." "Yi Qing Luo, you mean you already knew?" Dmo Xian nodded. "That's right, from the moment we entered, we already realized it." Yi Qing Luo, "Then why didn't you say so earlier?" "I want to be alone with you for a while." Dmo Xian wrapped his arms around her slender waist and buried his head into her neck, inhaling the delicate fragrance from her body. Yi Qing Luo's heart immediately softened. The expression on his face also softened. This man really knew how to soothe her temper. Yi Qing Luo helplessly stared at him as she stretched out her hand and pinched his face. "I think you are intentionally trying to see me embarrass myself." Dmo Xian's large palm clasped her little hand as he chuckled. "I just want to look at you." Yi Qing Luo, "Flirt again." She put on a serious face and got down to business. "If I'm not wrong, this array has separated us from Xiao Yi and the others. Unless we break this array, otherwise we won't be able to see Xiao Yi and the others. Xiao Yi and the others will be fine, right? Separate her from her brothers. Was their goal to target her Qiao, Jin, and Huang Fusheng? Those three Huangfu family siblings all had strong ambitions. Towards Qiao Jin's existence, they were fearful. Towards Huang Fusheng's existence, they were jealous and indignant. If they were given a chance, they would definitely not let Qiao Jin and Huang Fusheng off. End of this chapter. Chapter 4556. You can rest assured. Dmo Xian raised his hand and smoothed out Yi Qing Luo's creased brows. Don't belittle those brothers of yours. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she pursed her lips. I've never belittled them, but the opponents aren't ordinary people. This was the Heaven Realm. They were the Huangfu clan and the Gloomy Palace. That Gloomy Palace had been jumping up and down for such a long time. It wasn't just her that couldn't handle it. Even the Emperor Palace had not been able to find out who the mastermind was until now. It was enough to show that the power behind the Dark Abyss Palace was far beyond her imagination. Don't forget, Qiao Jin is the acknowledged successor of the Huangfu clan. Dmo Xian pinched her nose. With the Huangfu family's golden pupils, his strength is not necessarily below yours. Yi Qing Luo was slightly shocked. Dmo Xian rarely praised someone. To be praised by Dmo Xian, it meant that the other party was really strong. Who would have thought that Qiao Jin, as the successor of the Huangfu clan, would actually possess such formidable strength? He even pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. If he had known earlier, he would have left most of the matters to Qiao Jin to settle. Hearing what Dmo Xian said, Yi Qing Luo's heart finally heaved a sigh of relief. She clasped her hands together. The most important thing now is to find the eye of the formation, break out of it, and rush to their side as soon as possible. Pausing, she used a suspicious gaze to size Dmo Xian up and down. Don't tell me you know the method to break the array, but refuse to tell me? In all honesty, I really don't know. Dmo Xian put on an innocent face and shook his head sincerely. Yi Qing Luo stared at him suspiciously for quite a while. Scheme didn't find anything. She almost lost herself in his charms. Yi Qing Luo retracted her gaze and pressed her hand on his elegant face. I'll trust you one more time. Let's go look for the array. Dmo Xian laughed lowly. A warm breath sprayed onto her palm. They were like feathers, tickling her heart. Yi Qing Luo moved her hand away and pressed her palm on his chest, rubbing it hard. She rubbed the itch in her palm onto his body. She glared at the man, warning him not to tease her again. Then he turned his gaze to the surroundings. The Palace of Gloomy Shadows had specially separated her from Yan Xiaoyi and the rest. There must be a reason. He wanted to trap her in the formation. Or was he trying to achieve something through this formation? Upon closer inspection in this empty space, the surroundings seemed illusory, but vaguely there were strands of black aura lingering around. But the black gas as it approached the two of them. However, he avoided the two of them and brushed past them. Originally, Yi Qing Luo didn't pay much attention to those black qi fluctuations. However, she suddenly thought of something. He stared unblinkingly at the black aura floating in the air. As expected, he found that the black gas was floating in the same direction. Found it. Yi Qing Luo held onto Dmo Xian's hand as they headed towards the direction where the black qi was floating. After a while, the scene in front of them was no longer empty. Instead, it was a bloody catastrophe. The sky was dyed red with blood. The field was littered with corpses. The war drums continued to beat. The two of them stood in the middle of the battle. The sudden scene caused Yi Qing Luo to be in a daze. Chapter 4557. But their position wasn't very good. There were people in all directions. Blood splattered. The corpses fell. Only by flying up into the sky could they avoid being accidentally injured by the soldiers. But what made Yi Qing Luo astonished was they didn't evade, whereas the weapons in the soldiers' hands directly pierced through their bodies, slashing towards the soldiers at the side. Yi Qing Luo's evading action stopped just like that. She tried to stretch out her hand towards those soldiers, after waving it for a while. Indeed, it didn't affect the soldiers at all. The battle was still ongoing. The both of them seemed like a transparent existence. No one could see them. This should be a mirage. Dmo Xian held her little hand tightly. Follow me closely. Be careful. Yi Qing Luo nodded. A sudden scene of the battlefield. Who knew what tricks were they playing? But don't you feel that this battle looks like a battle between cultivators? Yi Qing Luo felt a little strange. The sky above the battlefield rippled with layers of profound waves. The soldiers were using their profound energy, attacking each other. The corpses were in an extremely horrifying state. Dmo Xian looked at the huge battlefield in front of him. As he nodded slightly, this should be a battle between cultivators and… I don't know if it's an illusion, but I feel that this scene is exceptionally familiar. Familiar? Yi Qing Luo's brows creased slightly, as her gaze swiftly swept across the surroundings. This battle actually made Xian feel familiar? Could it be that he had participated in this battle before? This way, let's go. Dmo Xian pulled her as he headed towards the battlefield. His footsteps were a little messy. The hand which held Yi Qing Luo's hand slightly increased the strength. Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips as she looked at the man's back view. Her fingers also tightened as she held his hand, as she quietly followed behind him. Just at this moment, suddenly on the battlefield, a violent gale arose. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. The darkness corroded, as though it was going to swallow the entire battlefield. While the soldiers were panicking, another burst of fiery, profound wave as it spread in all directions. That dazzling red glow, like a blazing inferno. In an instant, it intertwined with that darkness. Immediately following that, Yi Qing Luo saw an extremely familiar figure appearing on the horizon. That person was dressed in a blazing red robe, and his aura was disdainful. A red veil covered half of her face. The only thing that was revealed was a pair of beautiful eyes that shone with a captivating light. Yi Qing Luo's pupils constricted abruptly. God Emperor's Emperor, yes. The woman in red was Feng Ge. She would never remember wrongly. Why did she see Feng Ge in the illusion of this battlefield? Hadn't she already left the barbaric Bloodbone King's memory space? Feng Ge continued to release dazzling, profound light. It suppressed the wave after wave of darkness. The battle was quite exciting. Yi Qing Luo was puzzled. He kept staring at Feng Ge, sizing her up. She wanted to ask Dmo Xian, but she discovered that Dmo Xian's eyes were staring at Feng Ge without blinking. His eyes were deep and dark, unable to see through his emotions. But Yi Qing Luo could feel it. Dmo Xian's current mood was obviously not the same as usual. She thought about it. She still did not open her mouth to disturb Dmo Xian. The killing on the battlefield continued. Both sides fought for an unknown period of time. The scene in front of their eyes suddenly changed. That valiant-looking Feng Ge, who was still on the battlefield earlier, was now lying weakly on the bed. That face, which was extremely similar to Yi Qing Luo, was deathly pale. There wasn't any spirit in his eyes. Chapter 4558. Yi Qing Luo's heart felt as though it was pricked by a needle with some faint stabbing pain. Her breathing quickened as she stared unblinkingly at the deathly pale face. Her throat felt as though it was being choked by something. That little hand which was grabbing onto Dmo Xian unknowingly increased its strength. The sovereign of the divine emperor. How could he become so weak? I've roughly guessed the reason why the Nether Palace used this array to trap you. Dmo Xian stretched out his long arm and pulled the young lady into his embrace. The palace master of the secluded Darkness Palace didn't get any information he wanted when he entered the barbaric Bloodbone King's memories. But you in that memory can see memories that they can't see. So, They want to use this memory to dig out what you know about that period of time in the past and get the clues they want. Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes fluttered, but I didn't see any of these in the blood-bone barbaric king. This should be the part of the memory that the palace of gloomy darkness knows. Dmo Xian's vision looked towards the young lady who was lying on the bed not too far away, who looked extremely similar to Yi Qing Luo. He sighed softly. The Palace of Darkness wants you to know about this part of your memories. The Tenebrous Palace also had the memories of the Divine Emperor? Could it be the person behind the scenes of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was also someone from that time? That person. Why did he let her see this memory of the Divine Emperor? Stay awake. Don't be affected by everything here. Dmo Xian's gentle voice was close to her ear. His warmth enveloped the girl. I don't know what method Tenyu Palace is using to search your memories, but as long as your will is strong, Tenyu Palace won't have the chance. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath and clenched her fist. All right. As the two of them spoke, Feng Ge suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood was obviously jet black. She was poisoned. Yi Qing Luo's pupils contracted slightly. The sovereign of the Divine Emperor was poisoned. How did she get poisoned? Yi Qing Luo's heart was in a mess, and she was just about to step forward to check out what poison it was. He had yet to move. He saw an old woman in her 50s, holding a baby in her arms, walking over quickly. When he saw the old woman, Feng Ge, who was lying on the bed, immediately propped herself up and looked at the baby with infatuated eyes. Quick, quick! Bring Luo Luo over. Her face was filled with reluctance and attachment to the little baby. Master. The old woman carried the baby to Feng Ji's bedside and handed him over. Feng Ji's hands were shaking. He gently touched the soft baby. It was like he couldn't wait to tightly pull her into his embrace. However, he was also worried that he would crush the baby, so he kept controlling his strength. Luo Luo, I'm sorry. Feng Ji's reddened eyes stared deeply at the baby's face. Since you were born, Mother has not been able to properly accompany you. Now, I can't keep you company anymore. Tears rolled down Feng Ji's cheeks. The baby was still ignorant. He grabbed Feng Ji's hair with his little hands and squeaked. Feng Ge held the baby and talked for a while, until that face was so pale that it looked like he would stop breathing the next moment. She couldn't bear to shift her vision to the old woman. Grandma Bai carry Luo Luo well. Chapter 45-59. The old lady carried the baby carefully as she looked at Feng Ge with heartache. God Emperor, Qing Luo is right here. This old servant will take good care of her. Take a rest first, and when your body is better, you will be able to accompany Qing Luo. Feng Ji's gaze returned to the baby's face. Her eyes were burning as she stared greedily, as if she wanted to remember the baby's face in her heart. That kind of tenderness, that kind of reluctance. There's no time. Her voice was very hoarse, as if something was strangling her. Grandma Bai, you know? I don't have time. The old lady's eyes turned red. No, God Emperor. You will be fine. She placed the baby in her arms in front of Feng Ge and said in a choked and anxious voice, God Emperor, look here, this is your child. Don't tell me you can bear to leave her alone? Feng Ji's lips twitched, as if she wanted to laugh, but she couldn't muster up any strength. Can't bear to. How could I bear to? Her voice was so soft that it was mixed with the wind, making it sound unreal. But it's too late, there's no time. Feng Ge closed her eyes in pain. The tears overflowed from the corners of her eyes and slid down her cheeks. The old lady was almost choking with sobs. Feng Ge adjusted her breathing and let the old lady carry the baby, facing her face. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes again. Suddenly her 5 fingers moved, pierced into her heart. Blood blended with her blazing robe. The air seemed to be filled with a thick smell of blood. The old lady cried out involuntarily, God Emperor, what are you doing? The old lady panicked and wanted to put down the baby to stop Feng Ji's self-harm. But before she could move, Feng Ji's painful voice stopped her. Grandma Bai, don't move. The moment she spoke, her breathing became messy. It affected the wound on her chest, and the pain was twitching. That originally pale face at this moment looked even paler. There was no trace of blood on it. This was not only the old lady choking with sobs. Even Yiqing Luo, who was standing by the side, couldn't stop her tears from flowing down along the corners of her eyes. Yiqing Luo was totally unable to control her own emotions. His heart ached to the extreme. Dmo Xian gently patted her back as his gentle lips kissed her hair, his actions soothing her gently. Finally, Feng Ji's hand slowly stretched out. On her palm, there was a sparkling paste with blood on it. It was shaped like a heart. It shone with the flowing light of profound waves. When the old woman saw the thing in Feng Ji's palm, her face immediately turned pale. Divine Emperor, what are you doing? This is your profound heart jade. In this world, there are only 2 divine phoenix profound heart jades. Feng Ji's voice was barely audible. It was hard for him to even make a sound. One is in Qing Luo's body and the other is mine. By Mama, I'm very clear about my own situation. I can't continue to accompany her. This is the only thing I can do and also something I must do. Feng Ji's voice was getting weaker and weaker. Even the sound of his breath was a little erratic. She flipped her palm. That blood-stained profound jade heart was surrounded by a profound wave. Endless profound waves lingering around. Tightly, quickly, and orderly, they rushed into the baby's body. The dazzling, profound light filled the entire room. Chapter 4560. If they continued to endure, the other party might just stand on their heads and pee. Mu Qiulan gripped her sleeves tightly. Her face under the veil was also restraining itself from twisting. She raised her head and looked at the young girl standing on the second floor. Looking from this angle, the light of the luminous pearls was ravaging the surroundings. It was as if it had coated the young girl with a layer of velvet light. The young girl who had already taken off her veil and was facing the heavens without any makeup. Under this light, her skin was sparkling and translucent, and her devastatingly beautiful face came into view clearly. Just a single glance. Even though she was a woman and was jealous of her, she still couldn't stop her heart from skipping a beat. Mu Qiulan's 5 fingers suddenly tightened. The face under the veil suddenly turned deathly pale. Imperial Madam, since the Overlord has personally acknowledged you, you shouldn't rely on the Overlord's trust in you to be so unscrupulous. Mu Qiulan criticized her word by word. Since I've come to the auction, I'm a guest of the auction. Yet, because of my relationship with the Overlord, you let this senior from the underworld palace chase me out of the auction. How can you act like a mistress of a house like this? Her words paused slightly, and her gaze suddenly shifted to Pei Sheng, who was standing beside the auctioneer. Or is this how the Treasures Exchange House treats its guests? Basically, everyone who came to the auction knew how important the Treasures Exchange House was to Pei Sheng. In order to complete the Treasures Exchange House's wish of this auction, Pei Sheng had specially delayed the day of going to the Heaven Realm with Old Master Huangfu. It was sufficient to show exactly how important this auction was to him. Mu Qiulan's words. Not only 7. 3. Little at #net. Chapter 4561. Under Su Qingbing's worry and anxiety, she brought along the Blood Mercenaries group's elite mercenaries. The moment she struck, those killers could only wait to be captured. Yiqing Luo and Su Qingbing walked to the backyard. Bo Songyi was supporting Gu Zishi as they walked over. Group leader, Zishi is injured. Gu Zishi smiled at Su Qingbing. Group leader, I'm fine, it's just a small injury. Su Qingbing looked at Gu Zishi's pale face and frowned slightly. What's going on? Why are there killers here? She raised her eyes and glanced at Bo Songi. "Have you checked clearly? Who are these killers here to kill?" Mentioning this, Bo Songi's expression sunk. He glanced at Pei Sheng's direction from the corner of his eyes and gave a cold harumph. The trouble that Lad created has caused Zishi to suffer. "I'm really fine. It has nothing to do with Sheng." Gu Zishi heard Bo Songi's tone and immediately opened her mouth to explain. "Bo?" Songi couldn't help but sneer. "He can't even protect you. What kind of man is he?" Gu Zishi bit her lower lip as a sliver of anger surfaced on her face. "Bo Songi! You!" Before she could finish her words, she was interrupted by Su Qingbing. "Sheng? Not calling me brother anymore?" Su Qingbing opened her mouth. It indeed suppressed the accusation that Gu Zishi was about to say. Gu Zishi's face blushed slightly as she slowly lowered her eyelids, looking a little shy. "Not brother anymore." "Ting." Su Qingbing's lips curled as her elegant face broke out into a smile. Then, "Congratulations. The clouds have dispersed to see the moon." Gu Zishi's face turned even redder. The two of them spoke one after another. Bo Songi was completely stunned by the amount of information that was revealed. He looked at Gu Zishi in astonishment as his voice trembled slightly. You and that lad." "Amen." Gu Zishi smiled as she nodded. The radiance in Bo Songi's eyes dimmed, but he pretended not to mind as he said, "Congratulations." Coincidentally, Pei Sheng, with the help of the mercenaries, had restrained all the killers and was anxiously looking for Gu Zishi. When he saw Gu Zishi, he quickly walked over. He stretched out his long arm and pulled Gu Zishi away from Bo Songi's side into his embrace. He placed his large palm on Gu Zishi's face and gently caressed it. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. Gu Zishi leaned against his chest, and her pretty face was slightly flushed. "I'm fine." When their eyes met, Yi Shiwen's expression changed. It was as if there was no room for anyone else. Bo Songi looked at his empty wrist, then raised his head and looked at Gu Zishi, who was obviously happy and sweet. His hand, which was suspended in midair, clenched into a fist. Su Qingbing walked over and gently patted his shoulder. Then he walked past Bo Songi and walked into the courtyard. This melodramatic relationship drama made Yi Qing Luo smacked her lips nonstop. However, she did not intend to intervene in this melodramatic scene. She glanced at the two of them, and after confirming that they only had some superficial injuries, she followed Su Qingbing into the courtyard. When he passed by Pei Sheng, she took out a medicine bottle and stuffed it into his hand. When he passed by Pei Sheng, she took out a medicine bottle and stuffed it into his hand. In the courtyard, the mercenaries stood by the side. The killers knelt on the ground, and one by one, their masks were torn off, revealing their faces. The killers had apparently been injected with profound qi and were rooted to the ground, unable to even commit suicide. The mercenaries stood neatly by the side. The killers were pressed onto the ground in a sorry state. This stark contrast. TSK to let Blood Red's elite mercenaries come over to wrap things up. This was really a waste of God's resources. Chapter 4562. If the Palace of Darkness is unable to get the memory they want from me, will they let us out? Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and placed it gently on her chest. Gently, it was pressed on the direction of her chest. DMO Xian shook his head. No, they should know about that memory earlier. The sovereign of God Emperor had injected her divine phoenix, profound heart, jade's energy into your body. They should be trying to find the real location of the divine emperor's tomb through you. Divine emperor's tomb. Yi Qing Luo lowered her eyelids slightly. She had roughly guessed the real motive of the Palace of Darkness. It should be to find out the whereabouts of the divine emperor's tomb from her. Back in Nirvana Realm, when she met the dark forces, King of Darkness's target was her profound heart jade. It belonged to her and not the sovereign of God Emperors. As for the Palace of Darkness, They had tried to deal with her several times, but they didn't dare to harm her life, because the Palace of Darkness knew that she was the daughter of the sovereign of God Emperor. She could find the divine Emperor's tomb. More accurately speaking, only she could open the door to the divine Emperor's tomb. The Palace of Darkness's real motive was the divine Emperor's tomb. So, Palace of Darkness wants to find the exact location of the divine Emperor's tomb through that memory of mine, or to find a way to open the tomb. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes solemnly. Both, I guess. D.M.O. Xian caressed her hair. Now that we're clear of the Palace of Darkness's motive, we're not considered to be too passive. Yi Qing Luo nodded her head vigorously. MN, we need to hurry and find the array core, then break the array and leave this place. One more second in the array. Yi Qing Luo felt flustered. Who knew if the Palace of Darkness would come up with something new to force her consciousness out? Just at this moment, suddenly, a dazzling ray of light appeared in between the two of them. This sudden ray of light made the both of them unable to react in time. The next moment, the both of them felt a blinding ray of light in front of them. Subconsciously, they shut their eyes. The ray of light quickly enveloped the both of them. Then, the light gradually dissipated. Yi Qing Luo then slowly opened her eyes. After the strong light, her eyes still felt uncomfortable. She rubbed her eyes and said, Xian, what kind of trick is this formation going to play? However, there was a moment of silence. There was no response from D.M.O. Xian. She grabbed a few. They could only grab air. Her expression froze, and she hurriedly moved her hand away. The man who had always been holding her hand and hugging her had disappeared. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Clearly, when the light shone just now, their hands were still holding together. How could it be, all of a sudden, I can't sense his presence anymore? Xian! Xian! She raised her voice and called out, but there was no response. His surroundings were still that illusory space. It was just that the person beside him was no longer there. Yi Qing Luo's eyes sunk slightly. Her long and narrow eyes squinted as she speedily surveyed the surroundings, maintaining her vigilance. This was obviously a trick of the dark Nether Palace. He wanted to separate her from D.M.O. Xian so that he could lay his hands on her. If that was the case, this formation could be controlled at any time. The person who set up the formation must be in the dark, silently observing everything within the formation. So he would make appropriate adjustments according to the situation within the formation. Chapter 4563, which meant she could use this array to find the person who set it up. Yi Qing Luo's eyes darkened. In the empty space, there was a vast expanse of whiteness that stretched as far as the eye could see. She simply sat on the ground, no matter which way she walked. It was the same environment in front. She wanted to see how well the Palace of Darkness could keep their composure. After Yi Qing Luo sat down, she looked lazy, but in actual fact, she was releasing her senses to sense all the changes in the surroundings. She secretly used her mental energy to try to contact the pet space or the Azure Dew Bracelet. But no matter if it was the pet space or the Azure Dew Bracelet, there was no response. This array also cut off the connection between her and the pet space as well as the Azure Dew Bracelet. The Palace of Darkness was planning to make her isolated and helpless so that they could penetrate her mental defense. Yi Qing Luo didn't move. The surrounding nothingness was also silent. The entire space seemed to be completely silent. Not a single sound could be heard. Not knowing how long had passed, Yi Qing Luo's heart was as calm as a pool of stagnant water without any ripples. The Palace of Darkness couldn't find any opportunity to attack her consciousness. Suddenly, she felt a burning pain in her chest, as if a ball of fire was burning in her chest. Yi Qing Luo's breath stopped as her fingers pressed against her chest. That was the profound jade heart. It was agitated. Yi Qing Luo concentrated slightly as she tried to calm her emotions. The Palace of Darkness. Couldn't hold it in any longer. As long as the Palace of Darkness was anxious, she would be able to find the key to break this array. The burning and scorching heat in her chest was like a ball of fire trying to break out from her body. This agitated feeling, it belonged to the Emperor of God's profound jade heart, as if it was about to leave her body. Your profound jade heart is the key to open the Emperor of God's tomb. In a trance, there seemed to be someone talking to her. The voice was very soft and the surroundings were very noisy. She couldn't hear it clearly. You are the key. Quick, use your key to open that door. As long as you open that door, you will obtain the supreme glory. The illusory voice was still ringing in his ears. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, she only felt the scorching feeling in her chest as it started to surge. It was as if something was being torn apart. The ethereal and noisy voices in her ears kept vibrating in her brain. Yi Qing Luo only felt that there was something throbbing in her forehead. Her breathing quickened. He pressed hard on his chest. The secluded darkness palace was too sinister. He knew he could not shake her heart. To actually use hypnosis to bewitch her. Yi Qing Luo shut her eyes tightly. He calmed himself down and calmed himself down. He tried hard to ignore the explosion in his head. However, the burning sensation in his chest was like a ball of raging fire. Tell me the location of the divine emperor's tomb, and I'll take you with me to ascend the throne, the pinnacle of humans. The noise was still ringing in his ears. Vaguely, she seemed to feel a large palm slowly reaching towards her. That was a hand that was totally different from Dmo Xian's. It gave her a warm feeling, filled with hope. She didn't know why, but from this hand, she could see warmth and hope. But in her mind, there was a voice that kept repeating this. The young lady's eyes gradually became misty. Towards that hand, slowly. She stretched out her hand. Chapter 4564. The young lady's fair fingers, under the vast whiteness, seemed to be plated with a layer of faint fluorescence. Slowly, it was placed into that invisible large palm. The fog spread, curling upwards like smoke. The young lady's hand came into contact with that large palm, just as that large palm was about to hold the young lady's hand in the palm. The young lady suddenly moved. That soft and boneless little hand. Her 5 fingers were like an eagle's claw, clasping that large palm. The young lady's pink lips curled slightly. When she raised her eyes, there was no longer any pain and confusion on her face. That large palm, which was clasped by her, tried to retract in panic. But it was clasped tightly by the young lady, totally unable to move. Trying to escape? It's too late. Yi Qing Luo gave a cold laugh as a piercingly cold glint flashed past her eyes. She grabbed that large palm, pulling it hard, bringing along a vast, profound glow, as though it was going to devour everything around it. You've been deliberately mystifying for such a long time. It's time for me to see your real face. Following her chilly voice rang the violent actions of the hand. The surrounding illusory environment started to crack, turning into pieces of broken pieces. Broken pieces. The owner of that hand, which was enveloped by the illusory fog, gradually revealed a shadow, a tall and straight figure, similar to the palace lord of Seclusion Palace. He was covered in a black robe, totally unable to see that person's appearance. The mastermind of Seclusion Palace, that person who had been plotting against her secretly. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned cold as her body suddenly dashed towards that side. The other hand swiftly stretched out, tugging the other party's black robe. Her hand was just about to touch that figure's black robe. A bam sound was heard. A cold glint flashed past. That person actually directly chopped off that arm which was clasped tightly by Yi Qing Luo. Immediately after, with a leap, disappearing in the sky, in the midst of the broken pieces, Yi Qing Luo. What the? This godly operation was simply too ruthless. Wasn't this fellow too ruthless towards himself? In order to maintain his mystery, he chopped it off. Yi Qing Luo lowered her head, looking at that broken arm which was dripping with blood. He was speechless once more. She threw the severed arm to the ground. Motherf asterisk her. Just a little bit more, and he would know what the dark, rat hiding in the dark, looked like. It was difficult to get a field. Can't you stay a little longer? Don't you want to make a comeback by living in your lines forever? Hashtag complaints from the official site. Hashtag Yi Qing Luo's heart felt worse than a husky. You, how could you not be affected? In the shattered space, a strange voice that was so deep that its gender and emotions could not be discerned drifted in from all directions. However, Yi Qing Luo heard the bewilderment in that person's tone. She looked around her. It was impossible to determine the person's location from the direction of the voice. She narrowed her eyes and her lips curled into a cold arc. After fighting with you so many times, don't tell me you still don't understand that all the illusions you've created have no effect on me? DMO Xian had reminded her right from the start to maintain her own consciousness. The moment she separated from DMO Xian. Thus, she armed herself with armor. From the moment the hypnosis technique, which bewitched her, rang in her ears, she was already on her guard. Pretending to be fooled was just to force out the real mastermind. Ha! Ha ha! That illusory voice suddenly laughed. That sinister laughter was extremely treacherous and terrifying. Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 45-65. Young lady. You're very confident. That cold voice seemed to be wrapped in frost. Confidence is a good thing, but blind confidence will only make you die faster. Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change. Her slender brows raised slightly. This sentence, I'll return it to you. She paused, then her lips curled into a smile. I think, even if I'm really going to die, you won't bear to let me die. So, even if you die, I won't die. The surrounding air seemed to have condensed into frost. It was especially gloomy. After a long time, that cold voice sounded again. Young lady, you're very smart, but unfortunately, until now, you're still not able to understand the true meaning of the divine phoenix profound heart jade. Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers gently pressed on her chest. Her pink lips curled slightly as she asked with a smile that didn't look like a smile, so what? Even if I'm unable to understand it, this profound heart jade is ultimately mine. Even if you want it, you won't be able to get it. The Overlord isn't by your side, yet you still dare to be so arrogant. Aren't you afraid that this seat will take action personally? That cold voice revealed a threatening chill. Indistinctly, it was mixed with the excitement of meeting prey. Yi Qing Luo's expression still didn't have much emotional changes. She gave a sarcastic smile. Oh, the person who just chopped off his own hand and ran away wasn't me. The voice stopped in an instant, a fragmented environment. Once again, it fell into dead silence. Yi Qing Luo's eyelids drooped slightly as she gazed at her own fingers pressing on her chest. Her long and narrow eyes were suffused with a faint glow. You set up this array, actually your motive is not only to obtain the blood-bone barbaric king's memories from my mind. Before you said that earlier, I was still thinking, what is your motive, the real motive of this array? Now, I can basically confirm it. That voice laughed lowly. Tell me about it. Yi Qing Luo's finger tapped on her chest. If you wanted this divine phoenix profound heart jade, you had a huge chance to directly dig out the profound heart jade from my body, but you didn't. In addition to what the King of Darkness once said a long time ago, my body is the vessel for this profound phoenix heart jade. This also means that only I can nurture this divine phoenix profound heart jade. What you want isn't the current profound heart jade, but a profound heart jade that's been nourished by my body and has already completely matured. Yi Qing Luo's voice paused for a moment as the corners of her mouth hooked up into an arc that seemed like a smile that wasn't a smile. You wanted to control my body countless times, wanted to turn me into your puppet countless times, the array this time. I'm afraid it's also for the sake of allowing me to comprehend the true meaning of the profound jade heart to be used by you. That sinister and treacherous voice, after hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, couldn't help but burst out laughing. That strange tone, when he laughed, there was a kind of hair-raising feeling. Young lady, you're really very smart. No wonder you're the person whom this seat has spent so much effort to obtain. That voice's tone became treacherous and eerily cold. What a pity. After entering this array, before this seat achieves my motive, you absolutely will not be able to leave this place. That voice sneered. I wonder if those brothers of yours outside will be able to support you. Out of this array. Yi Qing Luo's brows sunk slightly. Her gaze turned chilly, and the temperature also turned chilly. I've said before, that sentence of yours, I'll return it to you word for word. Don't be too confident. Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 4566. That voice was indifferent. Young lady, you can't even find where I am, and you're still trying to leave the array. That person's words had just ended. Suddenly, the voice stopped abruptly. A piercingly cold, murderous intent filled the sky and earth. A loud bam sound was heard. A black-robed figure was sent flying and fell to the ground. That black-robed man suddenly flipped over and leapt up from the ground. Turning his head back, he met with a pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes, black to the extreme, like a deep pool filled with icy cold murderous intent. Diemo-Xian. Black-robed man's hoarse voice spat out 3 words while gritting his teeth. That voice was sharp and piercing. The purple-robed man slowly landed next to Yi Qing Luo. His magnificent looks looked down on all living beings. His long arms stretched out and pulled the young lady into his embrace. The elegant sandalwood scent and the man's warmth made Yi Qing Luo's body and mind calm down. Sorry I'm late. The man's low and hoarse voice was mellow like fine wine. She could faintly hear the hoarseness in his voice. Yi Qing Luo buried her head in his embrace as her little face rubbed against his chest. Not late, just in time to clarify the matter. She knew that Diemo-Xian would try his best to find her, even if the person behind the scenes from the Nether Palace had schemed to separate her and Diemo-Xian. But between the profound Phoenix Ring and the profound Dragon Ring, there was an obvious connection. This meant that she and Diemo-Xian were still in the same space, and they weren't too far away. Based on Diemo-Xian's ability, seeing through the illusion and finding her was just a matter of time. Diemo-Xian's brows sunk slightly as his chilly gaze shot towards the black-robed man, not too far away. The person behind the scenes from the Nether Palace? Yi Qing Luo popped out her little head and looked at the black-robed man. It shouldn't be his original body. This was an array set up by the Nether Palace. It belonged to an illusion space. Appearing here, other than the 2 of them who entered the array, were real people. The rest should be an illusion that was created. And this black-robed man in front of them, he should belong to the person behind the scenes from the Nether Palace. A strand of soul. That was why the mastermind of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness had cut off his arm without hesitation. At most, it would only affect the minds of the people behind the scenes of the Dark Palace a little. Smart. The person behind the scenes of the Gloomy Palace sneered. The person who was shrouded in a black mist of evil energy could not be seen at all. Yi Qing Luo moved her finger. A feather fan slid out. She gently swayed, and the corners of her mouth rose into a cold arc. I also know that this wisp of divine sense of yours is the key to breaking the formation. The laughter of the person behind the Palace of Darkness froze. Immediately after, the body shrouded by the sinister aura suddenly leaped into the crack in the space. Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian exchanged glances. The corners of his lips curled up. Immediately after, they leaped up and followed, closely behind the figure covered in black fog. She was just saying it casually. The reaction of the person behind the Palace of Darkness gave her an accurate answer. Dmo Xian had already blocked in front of that black-robed man. The black-robed man wanted to retreat, but his path of retreat was blocked by Yi Qing Luo. But moments later, they were already in a mess. In this array, the person behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness was merely a strand of divine sense. Before he could withdraw, he was restrained by Dmo Xian. How could he be Dmo Xian's opponent? But after a few rounds, the person behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness was already stepped on by Dmo Xian. The black robe which was shrouded around him fell onto the ground. However, the evil yin qi that lingered around that person's body was wrapped up tightly, making it impossible to see the person's face. End of this chapter. Chapter 4567. Yi Qing Luo walked up as she squinted her eyes, trying to wave away the sinister qi. But Dmo Xian grabbed her hand. Don't touch. Yi Qing Luo stared at that person. I'm curious. Does this sinister rat look like a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks? Young lady, this is just the beginning. You'd better pray that you will never understand the true meaning of the profound jade heart. The person behind the scenes of the Nether Palace said coldly. Under the thick black fog, she could vaguely feel a sharp gaze falling on her body. Apparently, the person behind the scenes was warning her. The moment she understood the true meaning of the profound jade heart, that was when he appeared. Yi Qing Luo smiled. Don't worry, when I understand the true meaning of the profound jade heart, you will not have the chance to get close to me. The person behind the scenes of the Nether Palace sneered. That foot which was stepping on her chest increased its strength as a warning to Yi Qing Luo. The person behind the scenes laughed as he started coughing violently. Hope you can continue to maintain this confidence. We shall see. As the cold voice of the person behind the scenes from the Palace of Darkness fell, the thick black yin qi around him abruptly bared its fangs and brandished its claws towards Dmo Xian's legs to twine around. Dmo Xian's eyes sunk as he quickly retracted his leg. Grabbing the young lady's slender waist, he leapt up. The sinister qi spread out in this shattered space. The dense black qi brought along a treacherous eeriness. It was this gap. The person behind the scenes of the Nether Palace suddenly plunged towards the shattered pieces, not too far away. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled as a glint flashed past her eyes. Her fingertips flicked. The alluring red glow turned into a flowing light as it chased after the figure which had disappeared. Ah! A miserable shriek rang. The surrounding shattered space suddenly shook. The shattered pieces started to disintegrate. Sinister rat is just a sinister rat, trying to escape with your tail between your legs. The young lady's voice was arrogant and disdainful as she slowly kept her glower flame fan. Earlier, when that person made use of the sinister qi to create trouble, she made use of the glower flame fan's energy to lock onto that person. If that person wanted to escape, the glower flame fan's energy would also chase after him. As the space fragment disintegrated, a ray of sunlight gradually appeared. It also revealed the surrounding desolate ruins. The formation was broken. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyes and gazed not too far away, towards the direction where the profound rays were spreading. They should be over there. Dmo Xian held her in his arms and flew towards that direction. A great battle ensued. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest were all wounded. The Huangfu clan's troops obeyed Huangfu Dongyu's orders and continued to attack. The four of them fought side by side. A bunch of useless trash. Ren Jianying raised her head arrogantly and looked coldly at the four people who were covered in blood. It was hard to tell if they were themselves or someone else. Then he leaped up and slashed at the four of them with a sword. The majestic, profound light was accompanied by a sharp chill. Her target was Qiao Jin. Amidst the sharp, profound light, there was also a dark aura that made one's hair stand on end. In the instant that he attacked Qiao Jin, the dark aura bared its fangs and brandished its claws, clawing at Qiao Jin's face. "Be careful!" Yan Shao Yi raised the blade of the black scythe and slashed out two black, profound rays. Her body speedily dashed towards Qiao Jin. Her petite body blocked in front of Qiao Jin. Bam! The two profound rays were totally unable to stop Ren Jianying's attack. The profound rays landed. It fell straight onto Yan Shao Yi's chest. A gush of blood instantly spurted out. The young lady's soft body crashed into Qiao Jin's arms. Chapter 4568. Shao Yi. Qiao Jin hugged the girl's slender body and roared out her name. Bright red blood dyed their robes red. The girl's pale lips were also stained with blood. A dark light flashed past Qiao Jin's eyes as he glared at Ren Jianying. Ren Jianying smirked, her face filled with viciousness and arrogance. "I wanted to leave it to them, but the Huangfu family is all trash. I don't have so much time to waste here." She waved the sword in her hand. The dark light merged with the dark evil energy, like a poisonous snake sticking out its scarlet tongue, making one shudder. On the other side, Huangfu Dongyu and Huangfu Fengyan, who were called trash by Ren Jianying, stared at Ren Jianying with ugly expressions. They felt indignant, but they didn't dare to retort. Ren Jianying glanced at Yan Shao Yi in disdain and smirked. "Do you want to die together for love? I can grant you your wish." She leaped, the sword in her hand stirring up waves of wind. Boundless dark energy pressed forward like a hot knife through butter. Qiao Jin hugged Yan Shao Yi and stood there motionlessly. His head was lowered and his expression couldn't be seen clearly. They could only feel the anger emanating from his body. Ren Jianying sneered and didn't think much of it. The sword fell, and the sword wave surged. The dark waves turned into turbulent waves and crashed down. Qiao Jin! Huangfu Shang wanted to rush forward and block this move for them. However, the Huangfu family's men had him and Gu Zishi locked down. The moment they moved, they were blocked by countless men. Bang! Ren Jianying's sword wave fell. The earth shook. Crushed stones flew, and endless dark light seemed to be able to devour everything around it. The surging sword wave was like a tide. The violent attack engulfed everything in its surroundings. Qiao Jin's figure carrying Yan Shao, he was instantly hidden between the sword wave and the dark light. How weak! Ren Jianying snorted in disdain. "Qiao Jin!" "Jin!" Not far away, Long Yunjian and the rest who rushed over saw this scene. Their eyes were bloodshot as they stared in disbelief at the scene before them being devoured by the dark aura and dark aura. When they sensed the scene, they were stunned. He rushed over as fast as he could, but he still didn't make it in time. Each and every one of them stood rooted to the ground, staring blankly at the scene before them. The tyrannical profound radiance and evil qi formed a black vortex in midair. The surrounding air and the tumbling gravel were all quickly swept towards the vortex. Long Yunjian's eyes were so blue that they were deep, like the surface of a lake, causing layers of huge waves. "I'll go save them." Long Yunjian's 5 fingers clenched tightly, unable to believe everything that he saw before his eyes. With a leap, he rushed towards the direction where Qiao Jin and Yan Shao were being swallowed. "Leader!" Tong Ziqing hurriedly pulled him back and said with a trembling voice, "Don't be impulsive, Jin Zi and Shao. You wouldn't want to see you get hurt because of them." No one could determine just what kind of danger was hidden in the depths of that vortex. If they were to rush over there, not only would they not be able to save them, they might even lose their lives. Don't tell me we're just going to stand by and watch." Long Yunjan's eyes were filled with raging waves. His eyes were bloodshot red. Wait. Tong Ziqing suddenly saw something. Leader, look over there. The few of them looked in the direction of Tong Ziqing. Chapter 45:69. Vaguely, two figures could be seen, faintly discernible. Immediately after, the dazzling golden light was like a sharp blade that quickly sliced apart the vortex. Evil energy surged, but as the golden light spread, everywhere it went, it was covered by the golden light. As the golden light became brighter, those two figures became more and more obvious. It's Qiao Jin. Huang Fusheng's eyes widened, exclaiming in joy. Under that majestic dark light, the faintly discernible figure, wasn't it Qiao Jin and Yan Shaoyi in his arms? The two of them were fine, a dazzling golden light. It enveloped the two of them. They were completely protected within it, no matter how the sword waves surged, no matter how the vortex tsunami, no matter how close they were to the two of them. This scene caused Rin Jianying's expression to darken. Her eyes were sinister as she glanced at the two of them who were unharmed. The long sword waved rapidly. Once again, she launched a brutal attack. The long sword fell. The shocking dark wave rolled like a tide, like a bolt of lightning, unstoppable. Bang! Vaguely, Qiao Jin, who was under the golden light, slowly raised a hand. When the dark light collided, the entire space shook, but the person under the golden light did not move at all. The vortex, under the pressure of the golden light, gradually dissipated. The man who was hugging the woman in his arms slowly raised his head. The pair of golden eyes, which were so golden that they were without any impurities, was ice cold. Golden eyes, you, the power of the Huangfu family. Rin Jianying's heart moved, her face revealing a rare panic. The Huangfu family, the purest golden eyes. They were simply the nightmare of the entire heavenly realm. People who possessed golden eyes, their strength could be called Tai. This Qiao Jin, he was actually from the Huangfu family, a person with such pure golden eyes. Can't be left alive. This person definitely can't be left alive. Rin Jianying suppressed the anger and restlessness in her heart. The sword light flipped, once again launching an even more fierce attack. When she attacked, her killing intent was awe-inspiring. Go! Long Yunjan recovered from his surprise, seeing Rin Jianying's successive attacks becoming increasingly fierce. He immediately leaped up, charging towards Rin Jianying. Qiao Jin hugged the person in his arms tightly. He protected her tightly. He wouldn't let her get hurt in the slightest. His golden eyes reflected the girl's beautiful face. It was as if he was relying on his body's instincts to counterattack and attack. The only thought in his mind was to protect the person in his arms. Protect her. I can't let her get hurt again. Ren Jianying's eyes darkened, and she looked at Long Yunjan, who was not far away. She stepped back. He fiercely pulled Huangfu Fengyan over and threw her in Qiao Jin's direction. You guys actually didn't tell me that he is the true successor of the Huangfu clan. This is your Huangfu family's matter. You can settle it yourselves. Huangfu Fengyan had yet to react. He had already been thrown in front of Qiao Jin. When she met Qiao Jin's emotionless and pure golden eyes, her body went limp and she screamed. He turned around, intending to flee. Qiao Jin stretched out his arm and grabbed onto Huangfu Fengyan's shoulder. His 5 fingers turned into eagle claws and directly pierced into Huangfu Fengyan's body. Fresh blood instantly dyed his hand red. Viscous blood dripped down. Qiao Jin seemed as if he didn't realize just how crazy his actions were, just as he was about to directly pierce through her heart. The person in his arms, her fair little hands, weakly grabbed onto Qiao Jin's wrist. It was just a light touch. Chapter 45:70. Shaoyi. Shaoyi. Xiao Jin's eyes were filled with joy and worry as he lowered his head to look at the person in his arms. How are you? Where do you feel uncomfortable? Yan Xiaoyi took a deep breath and smiled at him with difficulty. Don't let the dirty blood stain you. Xiao Jin's eyes widened. The person in his arms was smiling with great difficulty, but she still managed to maintain the smile on her face. Yan Xiaoyi's breathing paused as she shut her eyes tiredly. Jin, I'm a little tired and want to rest for a while. Group leader and the rest are here, and Qing Luo is also trying her best to find us. Be well, don't be stained by those dirty blood. Towards the end, Yan Xiaoyi's voice was almost unable to speak. Only the sound of air was left. She could feel that Xiao Jin had been controlled and dominated by those golden eyes. Xiao Jin, almost subconsciously, he started a massacre, especially when Huang Fu Fingyan's blood spurted out. Xiao Jin's consciousness became increasingly chaotic. It was as if he was on the verge of exploding. This feeling made Yan Xiaoyi extremely uneasy. Even though she was in Xiao Jin's embrace, even though her face was reflected in his eyes, but she felt that the distance between her and Xiao Jin was getting further and further apart. This was not the first time she had seen Xiao Jin's golden eyes, but it was the first time she had such a feeling. I can't let him touch blood again. He would be enchanted by the golden eyes and lose himself. Xiao Jin hugged her gently as his pair of pure golden eyes were suffused with a faint golden glow. Don't sleep? Xiaoyi, don't sleep now. Wait for Qing Luo to come, then you can rest. He sounded a little panicked. The emptiness in his eyes had been replaced by anxiety. Ha! You're still flirting with each other. Huang Fu Fingyan's eyes revealed an ominous glint that was filled with resentment. She covered the wound where blood was continuously seeping out and turned her hand into a sharp claw that was covered in a profound glow. Then she forcefully slashed towards Xiao Jin. She hated Xiao Jin. He hated this person with the purest golden eyes. But Xiao Jin's attention was always on Yan Xiaoyi. Yan Xiaoyi could no longer hear his shouts. Xiao Jin's heart became increasingly flustered as he called out Yan Xiaoyi's name over and over again. The smile on Huang Fu Fingyan's face twisted in excitement. His 5 fingers that resembled an eagle's claw emitted waves of profound light that grew even more intense. Jinzi! Long Yunjian bellowed angrily, and he already arrived in front of Xiao Jin. He raised his hand and grabbed Huang Fu Fingyan's wrist. Kacha! Huang Fu Fingyan's face turned pale as she miserably screamed. Long Yunjian's palm slapped onto Huang Fu Fingyan's shoulder. He was sent flying. Huang Fu Fengyan rolled on the ground a few times before she could support her broken hand, which was contorted in pain. Long Yunjian grabbed Xiao Jin's arm as a trace of anger surfaced on his cold face. Jinzi! What the hell are you doing? It was as though Xiao Jin could not hear his words. He just lowered his head and repeatedly called Yan Xiaoyi's name. Long Yunjian's lake-like eyes surged with great waves. Xiao Jin! His voice was deep and maddening. She placed her hands on Xiao Jin's shoulders and stared sternly into his pure golden eyes. Xiao Jin, do you know exactly why Xiaoyi is lying in your embrace? Because she wants you to live. She doesn't want to see you get hurt. If you're killed, how are you going to protect her? Are you still worthy of her actions of sacrificing herself in order to protect you? Hurry up and read the latest updates. Chapter 4571. Long Yunjian had always been solemn and cold. It was rare to see him in such an irritable mood. Xiao Jin's pupils constricted slightly. He slowly raised his head and looked at Long Yunjian as he called out in a hoarse voice, "Leader, it's fine as long as she wakes up. Don't disappoint Xiaoyi." Long Yunjian let go of his shoulder and looked down at the person in his arms. "Xiao, you will only have time to heal after dealing with the matter in front of us." And Qiao Jin replied in a hoarse voice as his golden eyes slowly looked around. The Huangfu family's troops all looked at Qiao Jin's golden eyes in shock. Their eyes were filled with uncontrollable reverence. As members of the Huangfu family, they naturally knew the person with the purest golden eyes was the successor of the Huangfu family, their future master. Even the current patriarch of the Huangfu family only had a pure golden eye. What are you guys still standing there for? Hurry up and attack! Huangfu Dongyu saw that the Huangfu family's troops had the intention to retreat and immediately roared. He had a sinister expression as he shouted, "Didn't you see that he injured fourth young mistress? He's just trash that was removed from the Huangfu family. What can a pair of golden eyes represent? Has he made any contributions to the Huangfu family? No." The Huangfu family's troops turned their heads to look at young master Huangfu with hesitant expressions. They also knew that Huangfu Dongyu's words were very true. However, the thoughts that were deeply ingrained in them since they were young, pure golden eyes were equivalent to the thoughts of their future master, couldn't be erased. Qiao Jin. They retreated. None of the troops dared to make a move. Huangfu Dongyu roared a few more times. His face was flushed with anger. He flicked his sleeves and was about to ask Huangfu Qifei what to do. However, Huangfu Qifei had unknowingly picked up Rin Jianying's longsword and leaped into the midst of the Huangfu family's troops. The longsword waved. The sword wave was like a surging tide. Ah! Ah! Screams rose and fell, resounding throughout the entire space. The Huangfu family's troops instantly turned into dismembered corpses under the sword wave. Blood splattered and flesh flew. It was a cruel and bloody scene. Huangfu Dongyu's face instantly turned pale, and his voice couldn't help but tremble. Third brother, what are you doing? Those who don't listen, just kill them." Huangfu Qifei raised the long sword in his hand with a gentle smile on his gentle face. But the words that came out of his mouth were so cold that it made people shiver. The Huangfu family doesn't raise disobedient dogs, in case they bite us instead. Huangfu Dongyu shuddered and stared at Huangfu Qifei in disbelief. These were all old elites that had followed the Huangfu family for many years. Huangfu Qifei killed without hesitation. Didn't they think that the relatives of those who were killed were still waiting for their return in the Huangfu clan? Big brother, if you can't steal your heart, then leave it to me to decide. Huangfu Qifei stabbed his sword into the ground as the corners of his mouth curled into a warm and gentle smile. He looked around and saw that there were still more than 20 people from the Huangfu clan still alive. He smiled and asked, "May I ask everyone, which one do you want to choose?" That smile was bone-piercing cold. The Huangfu family's troops were all trembling from the sword aura just now. They only knew that Huangfu Qifei was the most gentle person in the Huangfu family, a graceful and elegant young master. But they never thought, only today did they know that the so-called gentleness was just a mask. Hurry up and read the latest update. Chapter 4572. Immediately they trembled and expressed that they were definitely on their side. Huangfu Qifei's lips curled up in satisfaction as he gave the next order. "In order to show that all of you are sincerely following me, kill Huangfu Dongyu now." Third brother, are you crazy? Huangfu Dongyu did not expect that Huangfu Qifei would actually have the intention to kill him. Huangfu Qifei smiled. "If I don't kill you, how can I legitimately become the master of the Huangfu family?" He glanced at Huangfu Fengyan, who was covered in blood on the ground with disgust, and pulled the corners of his lips. "To be honest, I've put up with all of you for a very long time. One is as dumb as a pig and still thinks that he's important all the time, as though everyone else is a fool. In reality, he's always being toyed with by others and is being used as a tool without knowing it. One is relying on his identity as the first young master of the Huangfu family and the fact that he's about to inherit the Huangfu family. He doesn't even think about us brothers and sisters." Huangfu Qifei scoffed. There's no such thing as feelings in the four great families. You. Huangfu Dongyu's face was pale. He clenched his fists tightly and looked at the people of the Huangfu family who were originally following his orders warily. A ruthless glint appeared in his eyes. I'm the first young master of the Huangfu family, the future successor of the Huangfu family. If all of you are still loyal to the Huangfu family, kill him now. He's killed so many people of the Huangfu family, so many elders who have been loyal to the Huangfu family for many years. He'll definitely kill all of you. All of you can only choose me now. Let's kill him together. However, no matter how he shouted, the people of the Huangfu family stood on Huangfu Qifei's side and approached him step by step. Huangfu Dongyu slowly retreated. The expression on his face became more and more panicked. On the other side, Ren Jianying's eyes were filled with disdain and mockery as she watched the scene of her brothers killing each other. She had only said a few words casually. She could easily provoke the ambition in Huangfu Qifei's heart. This feeling of controlling other people's lives was really great. She glanced at Xiao Jin and the others who had already gathered together, and the disdain on the corner of her lips became even more obvious. Suddenly, a violent explosion came from behind. Rin Jianying quickly turned around to look. The place where the palace master of secluded Darkness Palace was sitting exploded with profound waves. The ground collapsed into a huge black hole. The palace master of the Netherworld Palace knelt on one knee on the ground and stared blankly at the direction of the explosion. There seemed to be some kind of emotion surging in his eyes under the black robe. Lord Palace Master! Rin Jianying hurriedly jogged forward and put on a concerned expression. She stretched out her little hand to help the palace master of Gloomy Palace up. Her hand had yet to touch him. He raised his hand to stop her. He slowly stood up from the ground. A black robe cascaded down from the sky, covering everything about him. He didn't even look at Ren Jianying as he walked past her to the side of the black hole. His eyes stared blankly at the black hole. His thin lips trembled slightly. They have come out. What? Ren Jianying did not quite understand what he meant. However, the palace master of the Netherworld Palace ignored her. He slowly squatted down. The black robe fluttered. The profound wave swept over. In the black hole, a few fragments of the mirror fell into his palm. He kept the fragments, turned around, and flew away. He didn't even leave a word behind. Rin Jianying, who was ignored, turned pale. She clenched her fists tightly and suppressed the indignation and anger in her heart. Chapter 4573. She was, after all, a beauty that all men would be attracted to. She was also very clear about what she looked like the most. What actions could attract men the most? However, this palace master of the secluded palace didn't have any thoughts about her at all. One day, she would make the palace master of the secluded palace bow down to her. Rin Jianying calmed herself down. Her gaze landed on the black hole below. She seemed to have seen the palace master of the secluded palace took out the mirror fragment from the black hole. The palace master of the secluded palace sat there, staring at the mirror. The explosion just now was because the mirror broke? How could that mirror break? Xiao Jin hugged in Xiao Yi and stood there silently. Huangfu Sheng and Gu Zishi supported each other and stood beside them. Looking at the front, the Huangfu family people surrounded Huangfu Dongyu. Gu Zishi sneered. I knew that third young master Huangfu wasn't a good person. Now he's showing his ambition. Huangfu Sheng caressed Gu Zishi's hand and looked at Long Yunjian. Why don't we take this chance to go to the Huangfu family? Xiao Jin's mother was still imprisoned in the Huangfu family, and the old man, once Huangfu Qifei, gained power. With Huangfu Qifei's ruthlessness, Huangfu Qifei would definitely kill old man Huangfu and Xiao Jin's mother. Long Yunjian looked at Rin Jianying, his cold face emotionless. You guys go first, Ziqing, and I will deal with the Ren family people. Rin Jianying has cooperated with the secluded palace. Her current strength is far above us. You guys might not be her match. Huangfu Sheng shook his head worriedly. I will stop her. You guys go to the Huangfu family. Don't talk nonsense. I told you to go. Long Yunjian looked at him indifferently, then flew towards Rin Jianying's direction. Wait, look over there. Suddenly, Gu Zixi exclaimed. Long Yunjian and Tong Ziqing paused. They looked towards Gu Zixi's direction. Huangfu Dongyu was still trying to use a bigger temptation to convince the Huangfu family people. However, the eyes of the Huangfu clan's group were filled with killing intent. One of the older elders looked at Huangfu Dongyu and said, Eldest young master, in terms of strength and talent, you're indeed inferior to third young master. Handing the Huangfu clan over to third young master is the best choice. Eldest young master, just obediently accept your death. In the future, under the leadership of the third young master, the Huangfu family will once again ascend to the peak, and you will be able to obtain a good reputation. After the old man finished speaking, some of the younger people behind him chimed in. Huangfu Dongyu's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. He glared at the people in front of him with hatred before glaring in Huangfu Qifei's direction. Are you going to betray the Huangfu clan? Aren't you letting down the Huangfu family's many years of nurturing by doing this? We're just doing this for the sake of the Huangfu family. The Huangfu family's troops swarmed forward. His killing intent was awe-inspiring. Huangfu Qifei stood high above. His gentle face still maintained a warm smile. Big brother, don't struggle. I will soon send Huangfu Fengyan to accompany you. Your deaths will be the last thing I will do for the Huangfu clan. Facing the encirclement of over 20 people, Huangfu Dongyu didn't even have the chance to fight back. When the profound wave pressed down, he closed his eyes in despair. Chapter 4574. Suddenly, a gush of devilish glow burst out from Huangfu Dongyu's body. The 20 over people who were crowding around started to cry out in pain as they fell onto the ground. The dark glow flickered. A slender figure could be seen faintly. Under the devilish glow, her dress fluttered in the wind. Like an excited fire leet, noble and disdainful, it made one feel an inexplicable chill. Huangfu Dongyu waited for a long time, but didn't feel the pain that he had imagined. He cautiously opened his eyes. He saw a figure which almost dyed his eyes red, standing in front of him. Her entire body seemed as though it was plated with a layer of pure holy light. His pupils suddenly constricted. His heart felt as though it was being strangled by something. Who? Who is it? Huangfu family's men fell onto the ground, clutching their chests in pain. They started to climb up and shouted angrily. When their gazes saw that red-robed young lady, a sliver of panic flashed past their expressions. Gu, eldest young miss of Gu residence. It's eldest young miss of Gu residence. The crowd cried out that young lady's name. Eldest young miss of Gu residence. Yi Qing Luo. When Huangfu Dongyu heard this name, he was stunned. Yi Qing Luo would save him? Yi Qing Luo would actually save him? No, this was impossible. How could the lady in front of him be Yi Qing Luo? Huangfu Dongyu staggered up from the ground as he looked at the young lady in front of him in a daze, until he saw the young lady's face clearly. He then believed. The person in front of him was Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo stood elegantly in front of Huangfu Dongyu. The expression on her face was indifferent without any extra emotions. A pair of long and narrow eyes casually swept across the group of people from the Huangfu clan, and the corner of her mouth curled into a cold arc that seemed to be a smile that wasn't a smile. Yi Qing Luo. Huangfu Qifei saw the person who suddenly appeared, and his expression sunk. You. How did you? Didn't Patriarch Ren say? Yi Qing Luo had already fallen into the array which she had set up long ago, and also vowed that even if the Overlord was around, Yi Qing Luo would absolutely not be able to escape from the array. Why? Did Yi Qing Luo coincidentally appear here? In the face of Huangfu Qifei's doubtful and interrogative gaze, Rin Jianying was also shocked. Her eyes widened as she looked at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. The expression on his face alternated between green and red. He suddenly thought of the scene where the palace master of the gloomy palace's mirror cracked and he left in anger. Could it be that, when the mirror surface cracked, it represented that the array had been broken by Yi Qing Luo? Rin Jianying's face darkened, and her eyes were filled with hostility. The palace of gloomy darkness was also unreliable. She really thought that it was foolproof. Unexpectedly, how long had he trapped Yi Qing Luo for? The array was broken by Yi Qing Luo. Rin Jianying clenched her slender fingers, and her eyes were filled with venom. Amidst the brilliance, she kept searching for ways to kill Yi Qing Luo in her mind. As for me, what I hate the most are disloyal dogs. The girl's lazy voice sounded leisurely. Her brows raised slightly as she glanced indifferently at the Huangfu family's direction. Following that, her gaze fell onto the astonished Huangfu Dongyu. Don't misunderstand. I don't want to help you. I just don't see eye to eye with them. So I conveniently took action. Huangfu Dongyu stared blankly at the young lady's exquisite face. Your gaze is rather disgusting if you keep looking. Don't blame me for digging your eyes out. Yi Qing Luo said coldly. End of this chapter. Chapter 4575. This baby was a married woman. Especially her husband, he was a huge vinegar jar, being stared at by Huangfu Dongyu. He was jealous to the extent of being unreasonable. Huangfu Dongyu's eyes flashed as he swiftly shifted his gaze away, stammering, No matter what, I still have to thank you. No need. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand, not even glancing at him from the corner of her eyes as she walked past him, striding towards the direction of Long Yunzhan and the others. Huangfu Dongyu was still in a daze. This feeling of escaping from death made him feel a sense of exhaustion from being overly anxious. But the surrounding Huangfu family's men made him forcibly hold on to his willpower, tensing up his emotions as he stood there. Yi Qing Luo walked to the side of Long Yunzhan and the others, who were similarly in a daze. Qiao Jin was the first to react. He carried Yan Xiao Yi as he rushed to Yi Qing Luo. Qing Luo, earlier Xiao Yi helped me to block a strike. Take a look at her injuries. Has the profound Yin Qi entered her body? His tone was filled with anxiety. Yi Qing Luo took a look at the person in his arms. The lady's delicate face was pale. Even his lips did not have the slightest trace of blood, but the lady's brows were flat without any wrinkles. Yi Qing Luo comforted. There shouldn't be any profound Yin Qi. She held Yan Xiao Yi's wrist. Lay Xiao Yi flat on the ground first. Qiao Jin did as he was told. Yi Qing Luo took Yan Xiao Yi's pulse. Don't worry, she only suffered some internal injuries and will recover after some recuperation. Feed her a medicinal pill first. Yi Qing Luo took out a medicinal bottle from the profound phoenix ring. With Yi Qing Luo's words, Qiao Jin's creased brows finally eased up a little. He heaved a sigh of relief as he received the medicinal bottle in a flurry. His hand, which was holding the medicinal pill, was still trembling. Qing Luo, are you all right? Where's the Overlord? Gu Zishi and Tong Ziqing spoke in unison as they welcomed her, their faces filled with concern. What can happen to me? It's just a trick that the secluded palace often plays. Yi Qing Luo smiled at the both of them. Earlier, when we rushed over, we discovered another wave of energy. After leaving this mountain, he chased up to check out the situation. According to her analysis, the wave of power that left, they should be from the dark nether palace. The consciousness of the person behind the gloomy palace could enter the formation. This meant that the person was nearby. So Dmo Xian followed the source of the energy and chased after it. If the power that left was really the mastermind behind the dark nether palace, He would tell her through the Netherworld Phoenix Ring and the Netherworld Dragon Ring. The few of them chatted as if they were strolling around the lake. He was very relaxed and indifferent. He completely disregarded the blood that filled the sky. Rin Jianying stared at Yi Qing Luo with a gaze filled with venom and unwillingness. Yi Qing Luo knew her secret. She absolutely could not let Yi Qing Luo live. A vicious light flashed in her eyes as she shouted fiercely, "Huangfu Qifei, what are you still standing there for? Kill her, while Di Zun is not here." The commanding tone caused Huangfu Qifei's brows to knit together slightly, but it was only for a moment. He lowered his eyelids as his voice was gentle. "Patriarch Rin, if I kill her and the Overlord blames me, what should I do? Aren't there two ready-made scapegoats over there? What are you afraid of? Based on your intellect, pushing Yi Qing Luo's death onto them isn't difficult, right?" Ren Jianying's voice became deeper and more venomous. "If you don't take action now, you won't have this chance anymore." Huangfu Qifei's expression didn't change as his lips curled upwards as he smiled warmly. "Patriarch Rin, on this mountain, everyone is my Huangfu family's men, and Patriarch Rin are alone." End of this chapter. Chapter 4576. Rin Jianying's expression changed. "What do you mean?" Huangfu Qifei's smile didn't diminish in the slightest. "Patriarch Rin is extremely intelligent. How could you not understand what I mean?" "Huangfu Qifei, how ambitious of you!" Rin Jianying stared at Huangfu Qifei with a mocking sneer on her gorgeous face. He seemed to be ridiculing Huangfu Qifei's audacity. Huangfu Qifei only thought that she was struggling on her deathbed. "When it comes to ambition, we are about the same. Isn't everything we've done just to fulfill our ambitions?" Rin Jianying raised her head slightly, revealing her fair neck. "Do you think you can be my opponent? I might not be your match, but I am the one with the advantage in numbers." Huangfu Qifei walked slowly towards Rin Jianying. "Patriarch Rin, if you're able to be obedient, then the cooperation between us can still continue." Rin Jianying did not avoid it. He stood there with a faint smile on his face. His face was filled with arrogance, as if expressing extreme disdain towards Huangfu Qifei's words. "Third young master Huangfu, no matter what you do, don't be too absolute. It's good that you're confident, but sometimes it can easily turn into conceit." Huangfu Qifei's footsteps slightly stopped on the spot. The two looked at each other. The space between the two seemed to be surging with some kind of turbulent waves. It was like a surging tide. Not far away, Qiao Jing glanced at Huangfu Dongyu. "Why did you save him? If he's dead, he's dead." Yi Qing Luo raised her lower lip. "This third brother of yours is really conceited." "He's not my brother." Qiao Jin's face turned cold, and he looked at Huangfu Qifei with disdain. "He thinks that he is talented and strong, but in reality, he doesn't have anything worth showing off." Yi Qing Luo laughed softly so. "Leaving Huangfu Dongyu alive and letting them fight amongst themselves, isn't that better?" She really didn't want to ridicule Huangfu Qifei. He could only say there was a hole in Huangfu Qifei's brain. Under such circumstances, he actually still had the mood to cause internal strife. After fighting with Huangfu Dongyu, he went to fight with Rin Jianying. Did he really think of himself as a god? If it was her, even if he was ambitious, she wouldn't show it now. At the very least, they should have waited until they were united against the foreign enemies and dealt with the first wave of enemies before slowly starting their internal strife. Now, there was internal strife at the slightest disagreement. After they were done killing each other, she had already slipped away with a bunch of brothers, okay? There must be a hole in his brain. She spared Huangfu Dongyu's life. After Huangfu Dongyu found out about Huangfu Qifei's true identity, coupled with the thrilling escape from death just now, presumably, he would retaliate against Huangfu Qifei. And now, Huangfu Qifei courted death by arguing with Rin Jianying. Given Rin Jianying's personality, She would probably teach him a lesson at any moment. TSK, what a great show. They should just sit back and watch the crowd. Everything was as Yi Qing Luo had expected. Ren Jianying was indeed teaching Huang Fu Qifei how to behave in a matter of minutes. Huang Fu Qifei's awe-inspiring display didn't last more than 3 seconds before he was already held between Ren Jianying's 5 fingers. A dagger slid across Huang Fu Qifei's neck. It scared Huang Fu Qifei so much that his face turned pale, totally unable to maintain his gentleness. Ren Jianying sneered as her lips curled up. Now, are you going to listen to me obediently, or am I going to listen to you obediently? Huang Fu Qifei's neck felt a piercing pain, and he could feel blood oozing out. Chapter 45-77. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched as she spat out a word in disdain. Coward! Huang Fu Qifei's begging words came to a halt. His pale face was stained with a shade of red. It was a flush of embarrassment and anger. He stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo, but he was restrained by Ren Jianying's hand. The show was pressed against his neck. There wasn't much deterrence. Ren Jianying didn't look at Yi Qing Luo as she arrogantly curled her lips and looked at Huang Fu Qifei, shaking her head. Not the Ren family, it's me, Ren Jianying. Huang Fu Qifei's pupils shook violently. He naturally understood Ren Jianying's meaning. Not the Ren family. It was her, Ren Jianying, which meant Ren Jianying's ambition was much bigger than what he had imagined. Ren Jianying wasn't doing this for the Ren family. She had a bigger target. Thinking of earlier, he had not even made a move and was already subdued by Ren Jianying. His heart skipped a beat. Yes, the Huangfu family will definitely follow eldest Missy Ren's lead. Huang Fu Qifei was indeed an intelligent man. At this moment, he had made his choice very clearly. What ambition, what unyielding character. None of them were as important as his life. Ren Jianying wasn't afraid that Huang Fu Qifei would betray her as she directly threw him aside. Casually, she threw the show onto the ground. The show was thrown on the ground. The gaze she shot towards Huang Fu Qifei was filled with disdain. Do you know what to do? Huang Fu Qifei held onto his bleeding neck as he stood up with a pale face. Yes. Huang Fu Qifei held onto his bleeding neck as he stood up with a pale face. Yes. This time, he had no chance to retreat. He was utterly defeated. Huang Fu Qifei took a deep breath. He turned his gaze towards the crowd, Yi Qing Luo and the rest. He pursed his thin lips as he lifted his feet and walked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. He didn't know if it was an illusion. The moment he moved, a cold glint flashed across his eyes. It was as though a strange, indescribable smile had appeared on Ren Jianying's face, as though she was plotting something. Huang Fu Qifei felt a chill down his spine. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's direction, he suddenly felt as if he had stepped into the path of hell. Huang Fu Dongyu. Suddenly, the girl opposite him shouted at the top of her lungs. Immediately, the noisy space quietened down. Huang Fu Dongyu looked at Yi Qing Luo in a daze. Yi Qing Luo waved at him and pointed at Huang Fu Qifei. The main culprit who wanted to kill you is right here. Don't you intend to take revenge? Everyone. It turned out that she had saved Huang Fu Dongyu, just to let Huang Fu Dongyu restrain Huang Fu Qifei? All right, this move was indeed ruthless. It was indeed very practical, because after Yi Qing Luo held out, Huang Fu Dongyu sprinted over. He seemed as if he wanted to take Huang Fu Qifei down with him. Yi Qing Luo turned her head towards Qiao Jin and winked at him. See that, the reason why I saved him. Qiao Jin. Just say it directly if you're lazy. Stop finding excuses. Yi Qing Luo's fingertips brushed past the azure aqua ring on her hand. A wisp of red light shot out from her fingertip. The faint light encircled Yan Xiao, Yi, and the rest, and after one round, She curled her lips. I'm going to play with eldest Miss Rin. Just take care of yourselves. She was just about to move. Long Yunjan pulled her arm. That Rin, Jianying doesn't look right. I'll go with you. The young man's expressionless face had a pair of azure blue eyes, but it was filled with concern. Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 4578. She smiled and placed his hand into Tong Ziqing's. Just take good care of Ziqing. I'm just going over to play. Saying that, she flew towards Rin Jianying's direction, but she discovered that Ren Jianying was speedily retreating backwards. The gaze which she shot towards her was filled with gloating over her misfortune. Rin Jianying's speed was extremely fast. In just a blink of an eye, she had already left this mountain. Her speed was so fast, as though there was some kind of dreadful beast in this mountain. Yi Qing Luo's footsteps paused. Her heart inexplicably surged with an ominous premonition. Thinking of earlier, Rin Jianying revealed a strange smile. Her heart thumped furiously. Not good. Everyone leave quickly. She shouted loudly as she turned her head back and shouted at the brothers behind her. Just as she turned around, just a breath's time, suddenly a deafening roar resounded in his ears. Bam! Rumble! The earth quaked and the mountains shook violently, forming a huge whirlpool. The booming sound almost engulfed everyone on the mountain range. Huangfu family's men immediately cried out miserably. All of them wanted to avoid the earth quaking and the mountains shaking. But just as they were about to move, they were crushed to death by the huge rocks which swarmed downwards. Large pieces of gravel and rocks tumbled down with a crackling sound. This collapsing feeling was totally different from the feeling of falling into the array earlier. It was the surrounding space which had started to shatter, as though it could destroy the heaven and earth. A huge energy swept across the entire heaven and earth. Yi Qing Luo's face turned slightly pale as she speedily released the god relic's energy to consolidate the barrier which she had set up for Yin Xiaoyi and the others. She stretched out her hand to pull Long Yunjan. Zhan, let's go first. This place had been a trap right from the start. Rin Jianying was planning to let all of them die here. First, she used the secluded palace's array to trap her and DMO Xian in the array. Then she lured Huangfu Shang, Qiao Jin, and the others to this mountain peak. When the right time was right, she would bury all of them in the mountain peak in one fell swoop. This was the forbidden art of space destruction. Rin Jianying wanted to destroy this place. If they continued to stay here, they would all be destroyed by these vortexes. He did not expect Rin Jianying to use such a sinister method. Yi Qing Luo tugged on Long Yunjan's hand, but was unable to move him. She frowned and looked at Long Yunjan. Zhan? She tugged at Long Yunjan again. However, Long Yunjan stood there stiffly, not moving at all. A pair of azure lake-like eyes stared at Yi Qing Luo without blinking. There were ripples in his eyes, but it was impossible to see what he was feeling. Yi Qing Luo felt a little strange, but didn't think too much about it. He just passed Long Yunjan's hand to Tong Ziqing's. He then squinted his eyes and turned around to look at the sky full of flying sand, giant rocks rolling down, and the space being swallowed by the whirlpool. Ziqing, take Zhan and leave. Qing Luo, be careful. Before she could finish her sentence, he was interrupted by Tong Ziqing's hurried and frightened voice. Yi Qing Luo acutely sensed a fierce, murderous intent coming from her back. She frowned and quickly tried to dodge. Before he could turn his head, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his shoulder. The sharp blade directly pierced into her body. She gave a dull moan, and as her 5 fingers moved, the glower flame fan opened up and speedily drew out a demonic, profound ray, striking fiercely towards the direction where the murderous intent came from. However, when she turned around and saw the silhouette, clearly she was stunned. Her hand movements suddenly stopped. Her profound energy was also restrained. She looked at the person in front of her in disbelief. Chapter 45-79. A youth with black hair and blue eyes held a sharp long sword in his hand. On the blade of the sword, fresh blood dripped down drop by drop. He stood there, looking at her expressionlessly. Between his brows, there was an icy coldness. Yi Qing Luo stopped her attack as her body swayed slightly. Blood seeped out of her shoulder. She felt a sharp pain when she moved, causing her facial features to wrinkle slightly. Leader! Tong Ziqing hugged Long Yunjan's arm, her eyes filled with disbelief. What are you doing? She saw it with her own eyes. At the instant when Yi Qing Luo turned around, Long Yunjan picked up his weapon and stabbed towards her back. If it wasn't for the fact that Yi Qing Luo managed to dodge in time, that sword would probably pierce through Yi Qing Luo's heart. How could Long Yunjan possibly make a move on Yi Qing Luo? What was going on? Tong Ziqing's mind was in a mess. She held Long Yunjan's hand tightly and shouted his name loudly. However, in the next instant, Long Yunjan just waved his arm expressionlessly. He threw Tong Ziqing out. He brandished his long sword once again, chopping down horizontally towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's shoulders were still throbbing in pain. The deafening vibrations and the violent shaking continued. An endless whirlpool. It was already expanding. It was as if it was going to swallow everything in this space. She couldn't avoid it. He couldn't avoid it either. Yi Qing Luo's breathing was tight. Her pale face was dripping with sweat. Just as Long Yunjan's sword wave arrived, a warm and large palm clasped her shoulder. The next moment, her waist tightened. She was pulled into a warm embrace. That kind of warmth was different from DMO Xian. However, it made her feel inexplicably at ease. In her ears, she could vaguely hear the man's deep voice. This place is about to be devoured. Let's leave first. The dizziness from the blood loss made Yi Qing Luo a little dizzy. She clutched the man's robe tightly and said with difficulty, "No, they and them, I don't care so much." The man ignored Yi Qing Luo's words. He picked up the person and flew away. By the time Yi Qing Luo regained consciousness, she was in one of the darker rooms. The room was shabby and built with thatch, but the mattress she was sleeping on was of the best quality, soft and comfortable. Yi Qing Luo surveyed her surroundings and wanted to get up. However, the sharp pain from her shoulder caused her face to instantly turn pale. It was as if something was tearing at her flesh. What was going on? Yi Qing Luo panted heavily as she laid back on the bed, not daring to move. She was not a delicate person, but this kind of pain, even she was somewhat unable to endure it, so one could imagine exactly how painful this kind of pain was. She closed her eyes and tried to calm herself down. Right now, she should have already left that mountain range. It was the man who suddenly appeared and took her away from there. But what about her brothers? Yi Qing Luo's breathing congealed as waves of dull pain came from her chest, making her unable to maintain her composure to think. Perhaps he heard the commotion in the room. The tightly shut door was pushed open. A ray of light spilled into the room. A long shadow was cast down. The elongated shadow happened to be imprinted on Yi Qing Luo's face. Yi Qing Luo slowly moved her head and shifted her gaze towards that side. She saw the man standing against the light. His tall and straight figure was dressed in a black robe and his face was handsome. That pair of eyes, which didn't show any emotions, faintly floated with light. Yi Qing Luo's pupils shrank slightly.